part I'm my inner demon. Just when the caterpillar thought the world was ending, she turned into a butterfly. Barbara Haynes Howitt. Chapter 1. Soulless and penniless. The chill of the Pacific Ocean stings my toes as small waves crash and roll onto the shore. For a moment, the water pools around my feet, and I catch a glimpse of my own muddled, tear-stained reflection. I gasp and then cringe. Who am I looking at? What has happened to me? My eyes are puffy and my cheeks are red and tear-streaked. This is a face that could scare children. People have always told me that I'm attractive, and maybe I still could be if things were different. I hardly look or feel 40 right now, though. More like 60. The last few years have done a number on me, and now my face is gaunt, thin, bony even. My auburn hair hangs around my angular face in matted disarray. God, I look homeless. I can't even make out my turquoise eyes. They blend into the water, creating the illusion of a hollow, empty, soulless ghost staring back at me. Soulless and penniless. My heart pounds in my chest, and I wish the pressure would distract me from the crushing pain of this empty life, but it's useless. Nothing can take my mind off this downward spiral. In a desperate attempt to break through this feeling of despair, I try to call forth an image of Jason Momoa, shirtless in Aquaman. Nope. Nothing. I just feel nothing. I shudder, not sure if from the fear of what I'm considering or from the icy waters around my feet. Come on, Lindsay. Do it and get it over with. No one will even notice that you're gone. Sucking in a deep breath, I close my eyes. I can do this. I heard that drowning is an excruciating way to go, but that's what this piece of metal in my pocket is for. It will probably be the only backup plan that has ever worked for me. Yes, it'll hurt, but the pain will be far less than living my horrible existence for even one more day. And whose fault is that, Lindsay? Mine. I know it is. I'm here because I allowed myself to fall this far down. Suddenly, memories ebb and flow like waves around my heart. A burning guilt stabs at my stomach and begins to creep upwards. Your fault, Lindsay. My eyes brim with unshed tears, and suddenly, they spill over and stream down my cheeks. Drawing in a deep breath of sweet, ocean air, I savor it one last time before exhaling. Then, letting those memories drive me forward, I reach into my pocket and take one small, shaky step forward. 3 months earlier, before he even opens his mouth, I see it on his face, a new expression. And I know it's over. Shifting uneasily in the chair of our stamp-sized galley kitchen, I wait while he begins pacing. In some ways, I always knew this was coming. Why do I have to be right about the crappy stuff? Why can't I be right about knowing lottery numbers or where to invest my money on the stock market? The room becomes stagnant with silence and impending doom. I've been holding my breath and quickly inhale, snatching in some air. My heart races as I tap my fingernails rhythmically against the slick dinette surface. He stops pacing and looks at me with that blank look in his eyes. Can you stop that? I stop. But I don't want to stop. Fury rages and fumes inside me and, like a 5-year-old, I want to yell, "You're not the boss of me. I hate you, Lindsay." There's no easy way to say this. He leans against the wall with a sigh, clearly hesitant to take a seat opposite me. I know you've been trying to live your dream in spite of all your failures. But the truth is, you need to stop with this pie-in-the-sky nonsense. You need to come back to reality, get a job, and live a normal life. Unfortunately, that's something I can't do for you, or with you. I stare at him. And, despite my precognition, his words sting more than if he'd slapped me across the face. Hello? Anything? He raises his eyebrows. What are you saying? I manage to whisper. What I'm saying is, I know you have some cool ideas, but let's be honest, you're not good at marketing or running a business. You can't play ball with the big boys. You tried and failed again and again. Now you're in debt up to your eyeballs, and your constant stress is dragging me down. Lindsay, I have to be honest with you. I can't love someone as selfish and unrealistic as you are. His words are like little darts, stabbing me, one after the other. So, you don't love me anymore. I barely get the words out. Just last year, this man asked me to spend the rest of my life with him. Who knew the rest of my life, our life, could be outlasted by a sickly hamster or a semi-viral video? He couldn't just stop loving me, could he? We stare at each other for what seems like forever. This is the soul-scorching, heart of darkness in hell, kind of forever. The answer to my question is scrawled all over his face. I try to speak, but a sob catches in my throat. He sighs heavily in a way that he always does whenever he has big news. I always thought it was cute, but right now, he's killing me. I need you to move out of my house, he says, his brown eyes focused on me. And I know this may seem selfish, but I need the ring back, too. It was my grandmother's. I looked down at the beautiful diamond and platinum creation circling my finger. The perfect ring. The ring that showed the world I was loved unconditionally, through good times and in bad. The ring that held so many promises for the future. Humiliation makes my cheeks burn. Not now. Hold back the tears. Stay strong. I slowly slide the ring off of my finger and drift, zombie-like, toward the counter. My heartbeat thunders in my chest. Each beat reminds me of the things that had gone up in smoke this year. My business, my bank account, my attempts to get backing to start another company. Even my family thinks I'm a tragic failure. And now Charlie does, too. Gently, I set the ring on the counter, but somewhere inside of me, a fire ignites and courses through my veins. It takes every ounce of self-control for me not to pounce on him at this very moment. How dignified would that be? Instead, I keep it cool, turning on my heels and strolling out of the kitchen without a word. Yes? I look cool. Looked is the operative word, but that's good enough? Oh, and the car's in my name, so you're gonna need to leave that here, too, Charlie calls out soberly. The dam holding back my roiling flood of anger cracks and then crumbles. Hot tears rise into my eyes, betraying me. How dare he treat me this way? I needed his support, not this BS. All at once, I turn back to him, disgust creeping into my voice. Anything else, dear? What do you mean, you can keep your freaking house? While you're at it, how about my pride, my dignity, my future, my hopes and my dreams? And don't forget, my faith, my love, the ring, the car. How about the clothes on my back? Maybe you can sell them at a consignment shop. What else do you want from me, Charlie? How about my toothbrush? Would you like my floss? I know, you want my Zen coloring book collection. You can have it all. You're being immature about this. I'm being immature. I place a palm to my heaving chest. I'm not the one bailing when things get too inconvenient. I was there for you when you weren't sure which direction to go in your life, but now that it's my turn, you can't handle it. You know what? Forget it. I turn, my nails digging into my palms. Now, wait a minute, Lindsay. That's not true. I whip around and rush up to his face, in spite of myself. No, you wait a minute. Where the heck do you get off making me seem like some wimpy woman incapable of anything? Yes, I've been struggling to make ends meet, but it's not like I haven't been trying. Plus, I've worked my rear off around this house. While you go off to a secure job every day, coming home too tired to hold a conversation with me, I've been taking risks, trying to find new business opportunities while single-handedly holding this house together. He scoffs and shakes his head. Oh, you don't believe me? Who do you think fixed the sink in the master bathroom? Or the garbage disposal when it stopped working? Definitely not you. You wouldn't know an Allen wrench from a monkey wrench. Did I call a plumber and spend hundreds of dollars? No. I watched YouTube videos and poof! Fixed it myself. Wow, you're so awesome, Charlie says, folding his arms over his chest. You fixed one sink while I pulled in a full-time household income. Good for you. You? I see. I'll such a douche. You want the car. The ring. Take them. I pick up the ring and rush over to the kitchen sink. He holds up his hands. Lindsay. Don't. Since you're so awesome at pulling in a household income and can afford to buy another one, I guess you don't need this. I let the ring drop into the garbage disposal and poise my hand on the switch to turn it on. Stop, he shouts, running toward me, eyeballs the size of dinner plates. His face contorts in fury as he realizes what I'm about to do. I grin coldly, spin around, and open the door, ready to walk out in a dramatic blaze of glory. Except as I exit, my toe catches on the uneven threshold that Charlie had promised to fix a dozen times and never had, and I go stumbling out with a muffled oof, like one of the Three Stooges. Perfect, Lindsay. Just perfect. Tears run down my face. Unchecked now, as I scurry away. What a mess, and I'd only made it worse with my childish behavior. I could never grind his grandmother's ring in the disposal for real. She, unlike some people, was nice to me. Down the hallway of the building, it's difficult to turn my brain off as it continues to berate me for all of my mistakes. No one will ever take you seriously unless you can play with the big dogs like Charlie said. Forget it. No one will ever love you. Your ideas are stupid. You're stupid. Shut up, I tell myself. In my heart, I know I'm not worthless, yet my brain tells me otherwise. Always. At war with myself. You're a failure, Lindsay. Just like the man at the venture capital firm told me when I pitched my idea for another startup company last month. Just like my mother has told me over and over. The years I spent trying to prove everyone wrong is what I should have thrown down the stupid garbage disposal and shredded into a million worthless pieces, not the ring. For all that time wasted, I could have flipped that switch a million times. Not that it would have mattered. Because, despite what I'd told Charlie, like everything in my life, the garbage disposal repair was a total failure. 2. The present day, the water grows even colder than a moment ago. I take another step forward. Then another. Shivering, I feel around the inside of my shorts pocket for the warm sliver of metal stashed inside. I'm careful while doing it. Funny how even as I prepare to obliterate my life, my mind still automatically protects me. Suddenly, the air warms with nearby laughter. Turning to shore, I scan down the beach, which is covered in dancing dots of reds, blues, and oranges as the cheerful beachgoers play in their colorful swimsuits. A powerful swell cuts my legs out from under me. Disoriented and downed, I'm pulled into the depths of the ocean water. Briny water fills my nose and mouth as I struggle to the surface, gasping. Holy crap, I almost died. And that is my job, ocean, not yours. My terror-fueled outrage is kind of ludicrous, considering my purpose here today. I guess I forgot not to turn my back on the ocean because I was too busy turning my back on life. Another example of Lindsay's failures. Check. The buzz of the chatterback on shore is lost in the gentle breeze. The young man, chases a woman down the sand as she shrieks with glee and lets out a chorus of laughter when he catches up to her. Another stab to the gut. That was Charlie and me once. I've never felt so broken. But I've never hit rock bottom like this before, either. I tried to come to grips with the reality of what is about to happen. You're pathetic, you know that. You messed up your life beyond repair, so who's going to trust you now? No one. Ending it is for the best. Pushing back tears, I pull the blade out of my pocket and stare at it. Ever since I was a little girl, I imagined myself a successful businesswoman by now, making the big bucks with the best of them. Yet, here I am, lost it all, staring hopelessly at glinting silver in my hand, not the bling of my dreams, that's for sure. The giggling woman's voice in the distance pulls me back to the present. Her laughter is beautiful but also a waterfall of salt in my bottomless wounds. I allow myself one last moment to look at her, to see what I could have been, should have been, had I done things right. I turn my face to take her in, but the happy couple has disappeared. Better that way. No need to ever see what I will never have. Turning back toward the ocean, a glimmer of light catches my attention. Standing about 30 feet away is a man in his early 60s. The sun reflects off his gold wristwatch. He has brown skin, a neat white beard, and well-groomed salt and pepper hair. He would make for a nice postcard standing on the shore, a picture of gentlemanly perfection in his white linen pants and loose polo shirt, staring out at the peaceful water. He senses me watching him and turns his gaze on me. His eyes are deep, kind and filled with compassion. A grin splits his face as he twiddles his fingers in my direction. Not today, old man. I am not in the mood to make friends. Still, He keeps his gaze locked on me. Moments silently pass, then minutes. I look away but glance back every so often. He's still staring. Seriously? How can I kill myself with an audience, especially one so bright and cheerful? I focus back on the task at hand and take another step into the ocean. The water level is now up to my thighs. The ocean water is so cold. I'm not sure which is worse, the freezing water or my cold, empty life. I can't stand either. Still, I can feel his eyes burning holes into me. I turn to look. Sure enough, he's watching with a bemused look on his face. What's his problem? Even though I shoot him a heavy frown, he responds with another broad smile, one that touches the corners of his crinkly eyes. My mind spins with rage. Who does this man think he is? I shrug to let him. No, I am not at all happy about this staring contest. Can't a girl properly end her life without a stranger mocking her for it? Water splashes up as I stomp to the shore with a face full of gritty sand stuck to my cheeks and clinging to my hair. The closer I get to him, the wider he smiles. When I finally emerge onto the sand, my shorts drenched, I stand in front of him, hands on my hips. So what? Today, I don't look cover girl perfect. No sin in that. Why are you staring at me? He cocks his head to one side, looking confused. What? You can't mind your own business. I cross my arms, waiting for his answer. He blinks slowly and looks out at the horizon. It's not your time yet. It's not my time yet. What is he? Some carnival fortune teller or something? What do you mean? I snap at him, sizing him up. He looks so calm and peaceful. I find it difficult not to hate him for it. Who are you? I'm Arjun, he says in a kindly voice. And you, Lindsay, I say, though I have no idea why I am even talking to this man. Lindsay, he says as if trying the name out on his tongue. Very nice to meet you. I don't believe it is your time to leave this world yet. I sense there is more for you to do here. My mouth swings open. A pretty audacious claim, but is he right? No? This whole thing is ridiculous. He doesn't know anything about me. In fact, my life is none of his business. I take a deep breath to collect myself. What makes you think I was about to end it? I mean, who would try to off themselves at a public beach in broad daylight? As far as ideas go, it's a pretty dumb one. The smile fades from Arjun's face. He contemplates his answer for a while. I saw the way you looked at the ocean. The way you shook from the fear of uncertainty. I saw the way you looked at that couple on the beach and noticed the sadness you felt watching them. My throat goes tight at his words, but I bluster through. Really? Well, you're making a lot of assumptions for someone who doesn't know me. Was I wrong? He raises an eyebrow. I fold my arms tightly across my body and start moving away. I don't see how it's any of your business. You're right, but you're the one who came to me. I didn't come to you. Well, to be honest, I was a little surprised to see someone smiling at me just as I was about to end my life. Anyway, being so smiley when someone else is so clearly miserable isn't exactly compassionate, is it, mister? Arjun glances down and slides his hands into his pockets. But it worked, didn't it? It stopped you? He looks into my eyes, and I smirk. Arjun lets go a small chuckle and shakes his head. Well, Lindsay, I must say, at least you have a sense of humor going for you. Yeah, well, that's all I have. And right now, it's worth about a stinking penny. I let my arms fall to my side. He looks straight through me. Something about his eyes calms me. Still, I can't help but ask this. What exactly is it that you do, other than distract people during their private, really private, moments? He smiles, ignoring my question and shaking his head again. Or you might choose to see that I was giving you a reason to walk back to shore. No one can make anyone do anything. You are in charge of your destiny, okay? I don't know which mountaintop this Gandhi wannabe fell from, but I'm not going to stand here and listen to this nonsense. I start walking away, wishing I'd never walked over in the first place. Great. Let me go take charge then, Lindsay, Arjun says. Weren't we having a conversation because you do not want to end your life? It's true that I want this pain to end, and while I was talking to him, I was at least distracted. Sir, I can't seem to make it any better no matter what I do. You don't understand what it's like. I'm not even good at planning and executing my ending, no pun intended. I mean, coming to the beach during the day, and all the people. Just another bad idea, then make me understand. I have the time. He plops his butt right down on the wet beach. Ugh. I'm so horrible at everything, I can't even kill myself right. I pace the stretch of beach in front of him, words bubbling up in uncontrollable waves. I have nothing to live for. My friends and family have all written me off. Life has become one struggle for survival after another. I mean, look at me. I'm a 40-year-old woman. I look 40, right? You were going to say 40 and not a day older. Arjun looks unfazed. I think you look just fine. And it sounds like you have already decided nothing will work for you. What is that supposed to be? Some reverse psychology crap? I ask. No, I'm completely serious. You think life has not been fair to you. But you are so young. Who knows what else it holds? His voice is challenging, yet almost naively innocent. First of all, I think you missed the part where I said I was 40. He draws in the sand with his finger. Practically a baby. My life didn't even begin until after 40. So tell me how you got to this point. I sigh. Okay, look. Long story short, I was a top-performing software engineer for a successful company. But after some time, I started wondering why I couldn't just start my own company and make all this money myself. I had the industry knowledge and a good-sized nest egg I could dip into. So I started a social media company for conscious entrepreneurs. I didn't know much about hiring or managing people, but I hired a CEO and a few software engineer friends, the best I knew. When the Great Recession hit in 2008, companies couldn't even afford the small monthly subscription fee we charged. It all fell apart. I lost everything I had. The tears well up again and begin streaming down my cheeks. I can't stop crying. Sorry, I mutter as I wipe my face with my dirty shirt. I tried to make a comeback, but my confidence was completely shattered. Still, I pulled myself up and started a company to help small businesses with their technology needs. Bombed at that one, too, even though I tried everything. Now I have no money, nowhere to stay, and the love of my life, my fiancé, Charlie, left me, and I'm 40 years old with nowhere to go. Arjun reaches out a hand and lays it right on my arm. I stare at it for a long moment. I understand what you are going through, Lindsay. And I certainly appreciate the courage you have to start a company. I also appreciate what it is like to be successful at failing at such a young age. He chuckles lightly. Are you laughing at me? I ask with a scowl. Because it's not funny. I just opened up to you. You know, of course not, he says. I see so much of myself in you. I am not enjoying your failure. But did you know that most successful entrepreneurs in this world have failed when they were starting out? If you are going to fail, fail early in your life rather than later. Nope. I'm not cut out for this. I can't take it anymore. I can't even look at my family. They knew I was going to fail, told me I couldn't pull it off. They even tried to warn me before I started, but I managed to convince my parents and grandparents to lend me money to help keep me going. They were right. God, I'm so stupid. Why didn't I listen to them? Arjun flashes an all-knowing smile. Why do you keep doing that? Can I ask you a question? Despite my mild irritation at his constant smiling, Arjun's calm voice is like a sweet syrup of love and humanity. It's strange, but I feel like I can trust him to some degree, even though I hardly know him. Sure, I finally relent. His eyes light up with joy. Great. Who is the best-looking, most attractive guy on this beach? My mouth drops open. Seriously? Do you need an ego boost today, or a compliment, or something? Just humor me and answer the question seriously, Arjun insists with both a firmness and urgency that piques my curiosity. Fine. I gesture vaguely down the beach a ways. I guess the guy in the black shorts, over there. He nods and then points to the row of spectacular houses in the distance beyond the beach, perched in their glory overlooking the ocean. And which of those homes do you think is the most beautiful? Tears spring to my eyes again as I recognize the futility of what we're doing. This is silly, please, ugh. I shield my eyes from the sun and scan the row of houses. That house, the one with the blue roof. There. Happy? Yes, very, he smiles. Great. Now can I go kill myself in peace? Lindsay, you didn't even have to look around to find the most handsome man or beautiful house. Love and wealth are two things you desire on a deep level, So you automatically noticed them when you arrived. Am I right? Your mind stored these images as important information that you could easily access. I flip my palms up. I guess so, but that doesn't seem so strange to me. Don't we all want love and money? He nods. Certainly. So, if I were to show you how you can buy a beautiful house like that and have the most amazing love of your life, would you be willing to postpone killing yourself for just 90 more days? I let out a low, pained laugh. Postpone killing myself so I can go chasing mystical unicorns and rainbows again. I think living in a fantasyland is what got me here in the first place. Arjun studies me intently. If unicorns and rainbows is what you want, Lindsay, we can make that happen, too, he says, dead serious. Would you choose to live for 90 more days? You sound like a commercial, I said, suddenly feeling desperate to end this conversation. Regaining hope and having my dreams dashed again would surely kill me quicker than the ocean ever could. Do you come with a money-back guarantee, too? Or maybe a fancy set of knives that can slice through a can and a tomato? No can. No tomato. But a solemn promise, with a get-your-life-back guarantee. Maybe that's just a bit better than just the usual money-back guarantee. Don't you think? I sigh. 90 more painful days on this planet. For what? More rejection, failure, and disappointment in the end. Aren't you going to say, but wait. There's more, I ask. Maybe if I make it all into a joke I can stop that little kernel of hope from spreading. Nope. That's all I have to offer. What do you say? I stare at him for a long moment before whispering miserably, I can't. You can't. Or you won't. His words echo deep inside of me, despite my fear. And as I turn back to face the sea and begin to march toward it, I can't stop my cascading thoughts. What had happened to my passion? My dreams? What happened to that determined young girl who was once on a mission to live an extraordinary life and change the world? What happened to me? Who have I become? From somewhere inside of me, a tiny voice calls out, I'm still here. Just rub the genie bottle and I'll come out. I stop cold in the sand. Icy water pools all around my feet, dousing the fire and fight from my body and brain. I turn around and search Arjun's eyes. Okay, I'll do it. He walks towards me and wraps me in his arms, hugging me close. I want to say that it feels awkward, that I hate being pressed up against a perfect stranger, but it doesn't. It feels nice. For once, someone cares about me. And for now, it's enough. Chapter 2. The Ferrari. When he releases me, there are tears on his shirt and linen pants, but he doesn't seem to care. He gently pulls back and holds out his hand. What? I scrunch my brow in confusion. Arjun nods toward my pocket. Oh, I guess he was watching me from the beginning. I reach cautiously into my pocket and pull out the razor blade, carefully placing it in Arjun's palm. Thank you for believing in yourself. He smiles reassuringly, takes me by the shoulder, and leads me up the beach, away from the water. Can he help me? I honestly have no clue, but I have nothing to lose by letting him try. We walk past beachgoers who frolic and play without a care in the world. Let's get you a dry towel so that we can continue our talk. Yeah, I feel like a stinky wet dog who needs a good shake, I say, cringing. As we reach the edge of the beach and step onto the hot pavement of the parking lot, I shake the sand from between my toes. Arjun leads me across the lot to a beautifully polished Ferrari. La Ferrari. Holy shit, he's edu. What does this guy do for a living? That's as expensive a Ferrari as there is. As I stand there gawking, he pulls a set of keys from his pocket and disarms the alarm. Suddenly, I'm excited and nervous all at the same time. On one hand, I've always dreamed of having a fancy sports car like this, but on the other, what if I fail again? I don't want to mess up your beautiful car with my wet clothes. Maybe you should run me through the car wash first, Lindsay. It is only a car. Besides, believe it or not, wet and muddy, you are still much more valuable than this car. Jump in. Yes. So how did this man make me feel hopeful again in such a short time? Looking around at the shiny dash and fancy interior, I shake my head in disbelief. Never in a million years would I have guessed that my beach adventure would have ended this way. Arjun climbs into the driver's seat beside me and flashes a confident smile. I shrink in my seat, suddenly feeling less than confident once more. Here's this guy who looks like he has it all, but does he really understand the mess I'm in? You never answered my question, I blurt. Which one? His calming voice rings gently as the car rumbles to life. What do you do? I mean, how did you? I fumble for words. He closes his eyes momentarily. Yes. Well, are you asking what I do? Or how I can do it? Well, I guess both. I admit. Arjun guides the car out of the parking lot, and I wince at the beat-up Honda Fit I'd bought with my last $900 after Charlie invited me to leave sitting in the first space. The old man notices me eyeing my junky car, but says, "Nothing." The Ferrari glides smoothly onto the Pacific Coast Highway. Picking up speed, the shoreline zips by in my peripheral vision. It's a beautiful day, and I'm sorry I almost missed this view. I own a few companies and also have consulted as a business growth accelerator for numerous others. His eyes flit to me every few seconds to make sure I'm listening. My businesses have made me wealthy. After years of helping to grow Fortune 500 companies, as well as small businesses, I shifted my focus to teaching entrepreneurs and professionals how to gain freedom from the pitfalls that caused them to fail in the first place. I use what I learned over the years to help them succeed. My mind swirls with a million questions to ask him, but I remain silent. I sense that you are perplexed, Lindsay. There he goes, being Madame Cleo again, reading my mind. Arjun shoots a quick but pointed look in my direction. I believe he's done well for himself. Heck, the car alone is proof of that. But, first of all, he's a man. And secondly, his life seems pretty easy breezy to me. Maybe his companies were well funded. Maybe he has never had to deal with failure or struggle at all. I don't want to alienate my new friend, but I want to be truthful. I clear my throat and shrug. Well, yes, to be honest, you come across like you have a perfect and easy life. Arjun turns the car off the highway and takes a sharp left toward the city. He slows as we melt into the thick jungle of traffic that moves at a slow trickle throughout Los Angeles no matter the time, day or night. Upscale restaurants and polished marble buildings line the streets. Actually, I have been through quite a lot, he says, and have gone through extreme financial failures in my life. So I do know what you are going through. I look at him in disbelief. Seriously, his car was worth more than any house I've ever lived in. This happened when I lived in India. I was in my final year of engineering college. I was getting ready to go to class, but I didn't have any money, and I mean, not even enough to pay for my bus ticket that day. On the other hand, you arrived at the beach in a car, so right away, you have more than you think you do, Lindsay. He eyes me carefully. I cross my arms. This time, I can't walk off on the beach when Arjun's words strike a nerve. I am cemented in his car, but if I'm being honest with myself, I wouldn't have left anyway. I'm intrigued, to say the least. I had no one to help me. I was alone in the world. I was so depressed because I thought I'd have to drop out. If I couldn't even pay for transportation to school, how would I ever pay for my education? I was ready to give up on school. I just couldn't afford it. I'm shocked. All this time, I envisioned that Arjun had come from money. He seems so carefree. He looks at me knowingly and continues. Even back then, I used to talk to homeless people and would give them a little money when I had it. Well, on this particular day, I was visibly upset as I passed by one of the poor people I had talked to before. "What happened to you today?" he asked me. "Usually, you are very happy." I shrugged him off, not wanting to admit my defeat to anyone, but he insisted I tell him why I looked so upset. I pulled myself together and tried to sound confident as I told him, "I don't have money for my bus fare to college today. But it's okay. I will find a way." And I started to walk away before he noticed the tears gushing in my eyes. He called after me and handed me an old piece of cloth. Inside were small coins and bills he'd collected. He said, "Take this all," and gave me everything he had. I just lost it right there. I started crying. I told him I only needed 20 rupees, about $0.25, for my bus fare, and I gave him back the rest of his money. I sit in rapt attention, barely noticing the traffic now. That man had nothing and yet was radically generous. It inspired me to pick myself up and find a way to make things work in my life even when things were not easy, specifically to find money no matter what the odds were so that I could finish my college studies, and to recognize that there are worse things that could happen to me. I had to go through many more challenging experiences, but that one was truly a significant, inspiring, Turning point in my life. Wow, I say, dumbfounded. I had failed, too. How many times? I started to silently count my failures on my fingers. Forget it. I'll have to borrow Arjun's fingers and toes, too, for that math. But if Arjun was able to pull himself up from that kind of poverty, then why couldn't I? Yes, wow. Lindsay, back then, I tended to brand myself as a complete failure and get frustrated. It took me some time and deep thinking, but I decided on 3 things. 1. I wanted to become extremely wealthy. 2. I wanted to help other poor kids, like myself, get an education. And 3. I wanted to help those who suffer, and convert that into celebration. I can't even imagine this confident, successful man in front of me as a depressed and penniless kid. Maybe Arjun really does understand. Maybe he can help. The tiny ember of hope inside my chest blossoms into a flame. What happened after that? I whisper, happy to be breathless with anticipation instead of from near drowning. I spent decades of my life trying to figure out financial success. I observed and interviewed and learned from the top 1% of successful people in the world. I dove deeper into neurology and psychology to understand the inner workings of these phenomenal entrepreneurs and world-class professionals. Based on what I have learned and from my own experiences, I uncovered 7 simple, but very powerful forces that shape most wildly successful people. I applied these to the businesses I now own, and then I became impassioned to help other entrepreneurs and professionals to do the same. 7 forces. He cracks a huge smile. I call them the accelerators. By now, millions of businesses and professionals around the world have used my system to grow their business, life or career to the next level in a rapidly changing world, he says with such certainty, he almost convinces even me. My curiosity pushes me to the edge of my seat. So, you're telling me you have it all figured out? Not everything, but enough to guide you to be successful in this life, he smiles. Listen, Lindsay, let's be real. In the past, women didn't have the opportunities they have today. Many women with whom I've worked tell me they were not taken seriously as female entrepreneurs. For the last 4 million years, men were the hunter-gatherers. Most women joined the workforce less than 100 years ago. Due to this, the work environment is conditioned and built by men for other men. Quick and impulsive decision-making, aggressive management styles. Most places don't even have a facility for new moms to breastfeed their children. We need a major shift in mindset to adapt to women's aspirations and needs, as well as men's. I didn't want my daughters to grow up in a world where they were deprived of the opportunities that my son had. I wanted to change that and level the playing field for both female and male-run businesses through a new generation philosophy. Sounds good to me. Most importantly, it is time for us to abandon the old philosophy that dictates the ABC of sales, always be closing. I propose the new ABC of persuasion, always be caring. This philosophy has helped me grow a few billion-dollar brands. He just said billion. With a B. I desperately want to believe in Arjun, but all I can hear is Charlie's voice in my head. Enough with this pie-in-the-sky crap. I'd like to shove a pie in his stupid face. But maybe watching him gobble up a huge helping of humble pie served up by yours truly would be even more satisfying. That sounds intriguing, I sigh, trying to take it all in. But I'm sure luck has a lot to do with it, too. I can speak from my experience. Today, I'm what some consider a lucky person, but my success has been anything but luck. I have created most of all that I dreamed of creating, and I have a fabulous life with my wonderful wife. Both son and daughters have very successful businesses and families of their own now. I'm offering the same invitation to you. I listen to the soft timbre of his voice and know that I want to be helped. Lindsay, a few minutes ago, you chose life. Let me ask you a question. What are the reasons why you feel you must succeed in life and business? He stops and holds up a hand. Let me rephrase that. Why do you want to live? What drives you? I think about that for a long moment and stare at him solemnly. I want your Ferrari, Arjuna, he chuckles. You can have your own. You remember the story of the tortoise and hare? Oh, come on. Are we going back to kindergarten now? Steve Jobs said simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Have you ever thought about that story as an adult? You've heard of that tale as a child, but what does it mean? How does it apply to real life? I have no clue, but something tells me you're going to explain it to me, I say with a half smile. He nods. You would be right. Let me share my version of the story. There once was a hare named Bolton Bolton. Come on, Arjun, couldn't you go with Bunny, or Harry, or even Peter? Peter is a much better name than Bolton. My story, my name, he says, turning the corner down a winding road. So, Bolton was the swiftest in his country, revered by everybody who knew him. He was the fastest, the best, and he bragged about that fact to anybody who would listen or wasn't fast enough to cover their ears. That rabbit sounded like a real jerk. Charlie, I said emphatically. The bunny should be named Charlie. But if it was named Charlie, I'd have to hate the bunny and I'd want to throw a pie at it. No one likes to hate bunnies. Bunnies are cuddly and, Lindsay, the bunny could be named Kanye if you like. But let's stick to the story, shall we? Arjun said, patient as ever. As it was with many heroes, when Bolton proved his strength, everybody listened. Most cheered him on, caught up in the glory that Bolton promoted in himself. Nobody challenged his authority, and Bolton used his name to intimidate everybody else. In his eyes, he was the fastest and thus, the best. But he also wasn't going to let anybody contest this fact. So this went on for a very long time, until one day, Sophie, the tortoise, was completely annoyed by his vanity and challenged him to race her. Everybody laughed, Bolton the loudest. After all, how could a mere tortoise beat a rabbit? On the day of the scheduled race, all the animals in the forest came to watch. The race began. Bolton was barely a visible blur. He ran so fast. In contrast, Sophie plodded along, her heavy shell slowing her progress. I could almost picture myself trudging down the road like a sack of stones with feet while a bunch of slick rabbits in business suits went zipping by me. This is hitting too close to home. Arjun, he nods knowingly but doesn't falter from his storytelling. When the hare was well ahead of Sophie, he stopped to rest. He looked around. Nobody was watching. He couldn't hear the cheering of the crowds any longer and knew he was far ahead. What is the big deal if I close my eyes for a minute? That silly tortoise could never beat me. His heart slowing down, Bolton allowed himself to relax and enjoy his well-earned lead, and he slipped into a pleasant nap with the finish line just around the next bend in the forest. I know where this is going. Bolton slipped into a dream in which he was running toward the finish line. Suddenly, he heard loud cheering. Was it the bankruptcy lawyers collecting his debts? Just drawing some parallels. You know, Arjun shot me a warning look and went on. In his excitement, he jumped up, out of his dream, to see Sophie approaching the finish line. He dashed to the finish line to great applause, only to see the crowd was wildly lifting a victorious Sophie onto their shoulders. This story sucks for Bolton, but has a great ending for Sophie, doesn't it? Yeah, sure, if you believe in fables and fairy tales. I tried Prince Charming, and kissed the frogs, but nada for me. That story has been told a million times, yet I don't hear of anyone's life being changed by it. It certainly never changed mine yet, Arjun adds. But you know how Sophie, the tortoise, actually won the race, don't you? Sophie got lucky that Bolton fell asleep. Let me explain, and you'll see how the story is part of real life. This story is far more than two animals in a race. It's about the lessons we can learn, and how we can apply them in your own life and business. Sophie was a 40-year-old woman and mother of two beautiful children. A wonderful wife. But she was shy and struggled her entire life to understand herself. Still, she always had great ambitions and the drive to move forward. Bolton was 29 years old and a graduate from University of Oxford. He had all the attributes of a Type A personality: intelligent, organized, driven, achievement and task-oriented. He talked fast and always thought about what to say next when someone else was talking. He bragged about his speed and, frankly, his presence was intimidating for Sophie and anyone else. Yeah, you got that right, I think, giving his car's interior another glance. So tell me, Lindsay, what gave Sophie the courage to challenge Bolton? Arjun pauses to let me process his question. I guess she was unrealistic, like me. I flash him a grin. She believed in fairy tales and fables involving animals. Yes, he says to my surprise. Not only was Sophie unrealistic, but also optimistic. You will soon learn about the power of optimism and how you can use that to become successful in your career and life. But for now, tell me, who would possibly make such an unrealistic, bold move like challenging that hare to a race? I don't know, Arjun continues. A person with clear goals and compelling reasons to achieve them. That's who. Now let me ask you this, Lindsay. Why must you have strong, emotional reasons to achieve your goals? Why do you think it is so important for you? I'm starting to feel overwhelmed by his questions, but I do my best to answer. Compelling reasons motivate us to pursue what might seem like impossible goals. Or else we'd never even try. Exactly. Look at Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela, he says. All of them were ordinary people like you, with a few key differences. Why were they so willing to move mountains to make their dreams come true? Arjun's eyes light up as he warms even more to the topic. Their tasks were more challenging and way more unrealistic than Sophie's goal of running with the hare. Gandhi got his country of India to freedom from centuries-long history of captivity from the British Empire on which the sun never sets. Dr. King had a dream that would require the Herculean task of leading the civil rights movement to overcome centuries of horrific injustice toward the black community in the US. If the tasks they had were thus insurmountable, then how did each of them get the grit to make a difference and impact people's lives? Yeah, but those people were special, argue. Born with that X factor, the superhero chromosome. I don't know. But I don't think they were ordinary. Oh, Lindsay, I assure you, they were. But it's compelling reasons that enable ordinary people to do extraordinary things, and each of those people had reasons associated with their goals. He gestures to the glove compartment. Get out a pen and paper and write this down. I do as I'm told and sit with a pen perched over a scrap of paper as I look at him expectantly. The number one accelerator that shapes all successes is this. Accelerator 1. Compelling reasons led to creative answers. A compelling reason. Huh? I try the idea on for size as I scroll the words on the page. Right now, my compelling reason is to fill my gas tank. That's what's motivating me, Arjun. Not exactly the stuff of greatness, is it? Arjun glances at me. I can tell he knows I'm not convinced. I want to tell you a true story about Mother Teresa. This incident happened during the early stages of her work. As you know, she made it her life's mission to help the poor, the sick, and hungry. One day, she encountered a rich, unkind man. Think Ebenezer Scrooge of Dickens fame. Mother Teresa asked the man for help, and even though he refused, she would not give up, holding her hands out, pleading. In his blind anger, the man spit on Mother Teresa's hand and yelled at her. What an ingrate. Yes, Lindsay. Can you imagine somebody rejecting you and being that hurtful toward you? I have no frame of reference for something so terrible, but I know how bad I'd felt when Charlie had rejected me in my time of need, and that had been bad enough. My eyes well with tears for poor Mother Teresa as Arjun presses on. Many people would have given up, but not this amazing woman called Mother Teresa. She quietly wiped the spit away, and said, I completely accept this gift for me. But what is your gift for my children? Her peaceful response and persistent attitude shocked him. He hung his head in shame and apologized to her, even as she still held a heavenly smile. He immediately gave her the entire contents of his wallet and also became one of her devoted followers. But that's Mother Teresa. Not Lindsay Mitchell. There is no difference, Lindsay, if you have compelling reasons pushing you. Now tell me, why did our tortoise, Sophie, win the race? Because she had a compelling reason, I say, hearing a little bit of confidence creeping into my voice. You were right. Sophie was vulnerable and emotional, thus strong. She could easily have felt rejected and quit when Bolton teased her. Sophie has a heavy shell that made it almost impossible for her to move quickly. She could have been paralyzed by her fear of being laughed at when she failed. But instead, she persevered because she had very compelling reasons behind her goals. He skillfully maneuvers the car into a parking space on the street in front of a drugstore and cuts off the engine before facing me. I am going to run inside and pick up a few things. I will only be a minute. Why don't you think about your compelling reasons in life while I am inside? I have complete confidence that you will be able to share them with me when I get back. He flashes me a reassuring smile. Well, I'm glad he has total confidence in me because I sure don't. I feel my forehead wrinkling with distress and rub it with my fingers, willing myself to relax while I sit back in my seat. Compelling reasons. As I think on this, I watch the people on the street all shuffling along toward their destinations. Some are dressed in professional attire, but most are casual in their hip, trendy LA style. After a few minutes, Arjun opens the driver's side door and slides into the car. The expensive leather seat squeaks as he reaches over and hands me a shopping bag. I peek inside. Pens, a journal, and a touristy beach towel. I smile at Arjun in gratitude, pull out the towel, and wrap it around my damp legs. We will get some clothes and something to eat soon, but I thought you might want these now, he says like he's my dad or something. Thank you, I smile. What's the journal for? You will see, the engine roars to life again, and I so want this car. Some people passing by turn to admire it. Or maybe admire Arjun. With my homeless dog, damp, matted, dirty hair, and stuck in all the wrong places, I flush for a moment, thinking of what a wreck I must look like. Arjun guides the car smoothly back onto the street, then turns his attention back to me. So, the answer, I sigh. This all feels a bit like lying on Dr. Freud's couch, but I suppose there's no harm in answering his question. I want to show the world that I'm a powerful and wealthy businesswoman, a role model of possibility. I want to fall in love and stay in love for the rest of my life. I want to celebrate life with my friends. There. Tall order. Huh? Pretty awesome, he says, still driving purposefully. I love your passionate reasons, especially the one of falling in love, staying in love and celebrating life. It's beautiful and romantic. I can't help but smile. Arjun's joy is a bit infectious. So, dry clothes or food first, what I ask, thrown off for a moment. Oh, I don't have any money. I finally choke out, cheeks flaming with embarrassment. I've never felt more vulnerable than at this moment. Here's this strange man seeing me at my worst, sad, helpless and broke. Lindsay, money is only a tool to achieving what you desire, and one you can use to help others and make the world better, Arjun explains. I eye him skeptically. For a moment, I don't know what to think. Am I his charity case? Does he want to sleep with me? Ugh, in my despair, the thought hadn't even crossed my mind until now. Arjun glances at me. I must be wearing a wary expression on my face because he meets my discomfort with a gentle smile. You seem uncomfortable, Lindsay. Is there something you want to ask me? I square my shoulders and look him directly in the eyes. What do you want from me? I mean, what do you get out of all of this? Do you expect? Arjun catches on to my thoughts and shakes his head with fervor. I have no expectations of you. Eradication of stress and expanding joy in the world is my life's mission. It's my way of paying back the kindness others showed me, Lindsay. That is all. You can choose to accept this help, these lessons, and run your race and win, or you can choose to walk away. Truthfully, it's hard for me to imagine. Most people I have dealt with always wanted something from me. Think of me as a mentor or a coach, he adds. A coach, my coach. I like that. I roll the phrase around in my head. Okay, my coach, I smile at him, feeling even more hopeful. Good. Now that is settled, which is a higher priority for you right now? Dry clothes or food? Arjun asks patiently as we wait at a stoplight. My shorts are wet but manageable. I'm still not entirely comfortable with the idea of this stranger buying me clothes, so food seems like an easier place to start. On cue, my stomach grumbles. I'm starving. I haven't eaten anything since yesterday morning. Well, we must remedy that immediately, he exclaims with whooping laughter. Arjun pulls into the left lane and slows to a stop, waiting for a break in traffic. As the cars whiz by on either side of us, I peek up at the cloudless California sky, a sheet of uninterrupted blue. The street is lined with tall, thin palms gently rustling in the breeze. I shiver, realizing that had Arjun not come along, I may not have ever seen another cloudless day. Arjun presses down on the gas pedal, making the engine growl, as we shoot across the street and around the bend. He turns to me. French, Italian, or sushi Italian, I answer quickly, thinking, I could go for pasta. He pulls in front of a cute little Italian cafe with a green, white and red striped canopy stretching over a small outdoor seating area roped off by potted jasmine vines in full bloom. It is a lovely sight. A valet quickly runs up and opens Arjun's door. Arjun climbs out and greets the valet, handing him the keys. I reach for my door handle, but just as I do, the door swings open, and a younger valet pops his head into view and offers me his hand. Mom, the valet says. Did he just take a second look at me? He must really be desperate. I take his hand and step out of the car. The street is less busy than the one we were on a few minutes before. Everyone on the sidewalk seems so perfect. I frown, looking down at my damp shorts and wrinkled t-shirt. Someday, I will forget this embarrassing moment, if I'm lucky. I wonder if Arjun is a therapist as well. Arjun steps up next to me and leans close, whispering in my ear, "They're too caught up in their own lives to notice yours, Lindsay." "Don't worry," he offers reassuringly. I smile. A perky hostess interrupts the moment. "Welcome to Angelini Osteria. Table for two," she chirps. "Yes, please," Arjun replies. "Very good, right this way." We follow her into the seating area to a small table in the corner where the intoxicating scent of jasmine fills my nostrils and brings back memories of a small village in the south of France I visited with Charlie. When things were good, I think. My eyes swell up with unshed tears. Thankfully, a waiter steps up to the table and snaps a crisp menu, holding it in front of me, and the memories shatter into fragments and float away. I order the lasagna verde, my stomach rumbling as I speak the words to the waiter. Eyeing the sugar packets on the table, I slap myself for even considering eating them right now in front of Arjun. Arjun leans back in his chair, taking a deep, slow breath. Finally, he opens his eyes, fixing his gaze back on me. The waiter brings us our drinks and asks if we would like anything else while we are waiting for our meals. Crackers. Tortilla chips. Anything besides these sugar packets to gnaw on. I know it's Italian, but my stomach is screaming at me. Arjun focuses his intense, kind eyes on me. I can see the excitement building within him. Are you ready to commit? Are you ready to find out what was stopping you from succeeding and kept you in the dark until today, he asks, pausing dramatically. I nod. I've come this far in just one morning. I can't stop now. I don't know where Arjun came from or why I've been listening to a perfect stranger all morning, but something about him. He's connected with me more in a few hours than anyone else has tried to do in the last 3 years. There's no question in my mind. I'm in. Chapter 3: Obstacles or Opportunities. After lunch, Arjun and I head to the beach where we park and get out to walk off our meals. Arjun tells me he has a conference call to make and that he will meet me at the Vista Del Mar Park a few blocks away in half an hour. But he leaves me with one task. Imagine you were a 7-year-old at Christmas, dreaming without limits. What is something you want to achieve in the next 90 days seems so simple. But reducing all my hopes, dreams and wishes down to one single thing without instantly squashing the idea beneath my crushing self-doubt, before it even fully forms, is no easy featuring as he drives away. I'm grateful for the time alone to let his question and all those lessons marinate some. I'm going to need a lot of marinade, and a long time to steep in it. Heat penetrates through to my bones as I walk, basking in the warmth of the mid-afternoon sun, which I almost didn't feel had I taken my life. Conversational din and laughter from chattering tourists filters through the sunny air. Absorbing their sounds, I'm unable to place the accents of a few. Cutting across the street between pedestrians and speeding bikes, I waltz into the small park, a stretch of grassy area lined with large palm trees and a low metal fence facing the ocean. The same ocean I almost ended my life in this morning. Palms on smooth metal. Ouch! Ouch! I forgot how hot metal in the sun gets. I quickly hoist myself onto the picnic table. The ocean breeze kicks up my hair. I taste the saltiness in the wind. Looking at the ocean, I feel its vastness and calm. Arjun's words filter into my mind. Imagine you were a 7-year-old at Christmas, dreaming without limits. What is something you want to achieve in the next 90 days? What do I want? To win the Powerball. Move to Mars and get away from it all. Travel to the past and invest in Apple Computer. Hey, Arjun did say to let my imagination soar as if I were a little girl. Well, let's see. Here's a biggie. I know I don't want to feel depressed and miserable anymore. I don't want to be broke and alone, either. I don't want to be a failure. As for what I do want, I know I want to be happy and successful. But how? I am so rock bottom right now. Reaching that goal feels insurmountable. Speaking of bottom, my shorts are finally drying out from the heat on this picnic table as the sun warms my cheeks. I close my eyes. I wish that somehow, All the answers would magically soak into my brain. I don't know how long I'm sitting there when I hear a familiar voice and open my eyes to find Arjun a few feet away with a wide smile. I have to say, I'm a little jealous of his happiness. Then again, if I was super rich like him, I'd have a smile on my face, too. Still, something tells me that Arjun's peace doesn't all come from his financial stability. I want to know how he does it. Suddenly, I feel grateful and lucky and incredibly emotional all at the same time. A surge of tears rises into my eyes, and I blink them away. I don't know why you stopped me this morning. Why you're taking time from your busy schedule for me and my problems. But I'm glad you did. So, thank you. Arjun looks at me straight in the eyes. You are worth my time, Lindsay. I choke the tears back down as Arjun pats my shoulder. We sit in silence for a while, just staring out at the churning waves, listening to the soft whooshing wind through the palm fronds. Did you think about what you want to achieve in the next 3 months? He asks. I shrug, shaking my head. I know I want to get out of debt, but that's like $500,000, $500,000. Ugh, talk about the impossible. I'm getting lightheaded just thinking about it. But saying the actual amount hurts more than I realize. I have a huge hole to crawl out of, but for once, I don't feel so hopeless about it. I would love it if I could reduce my debt by $30,000 in the next 3 months. Of course, there's probably no way. I haven't even been able to come up with enough money to rent a tiny apartment, but Arjun told me to dream big. So that's what I'm doing. Lindsay, that is an excellent thought. However, if you focus on avoiding debt as your goal, that is what you are going to grow. How can you rearrange your words so that you're stating something you want to attract instead of something you want to avoid? Also, since your goal is financial, make sure you add how you are going to serve others by earning that. In a business or a career, money is the reward for adding extensive value. The more value you add to the marketplace, the more money you will make, okay? I say, thinking it through. I want to earn $30,000 in the next 90 days by adding value to small business owners who are part of my social media network. I want to do this using the software development skills I have. I'll help them automate and scale up their business and make more money. Terrific, Arjun nods. You articulated it very well, thanks. Now, all I have to do is find $30,000 and start my climb up the Himalayas. I grin sheepishly. He chuckles. We will talk about money soon and how to attract true abundance into your life. But for now, take the notepad we bought. Arjun gives me a moment to retrieve my journal and pen from the shopping bag. I examine my cuticles and pick at the tiny grains of sand still lodged there. I muster the courage to continue. Arjun, I have to be honest. A big part of me still tells me I'm good for nothing. This voice has been the serial killer of my dreams for a while now. How do I fix that, Lindsay? First of all, I commend you for the trust you are placing in me. The good news is that the moment you found your compelling reasons, you have started the process of crushing your nagging inner voice. What you have is an inner conflict. He continues. Part of you thinks you need to succeed financially, while another part thinks you are good for nothing. Let us say one person wants to become wealthy, and she works hard every day to reach that goal. At the same time, part of her brain says if she becomes wealthy, she might lose her moral values and become a corrupt person. Do you think a person with inner conflict such as this can become wealthy? Probably not. You're looking at the poster child for inner conflicts. Why I wanted to be wealthy and successful. I tried hard, but deep down, I think I feel guilty about having excess money. Maybe that's because all the rich people I know are crooks. As a kid, I hated Ebenezer Scrooge and mean, stingy rich people. So, I always told myself, if I ever get to be like them, I don't want to be a bad person and lose my identity. Whoa, hold on. Is it true that all rich people are crooks? He gives me a wide-eyed look. My brain comes to a halt and does an about-face. Well, not you, of course, Arjun. Oh, sure, insult me, then walk it back. Why don't you? Arjun says with a wink. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. It's okay. I'm not offended, but I can personally attest to knowing hundreds of people who are wealthy and are the most truthful, trustworthy and giving people on this planet, and nothing like Ebenezer Scrooge. Remember, even old Scrooge had a change of heart. I know. I'm probably just jealous. There are good rich people and bad rich people, just like there are good and bad of any kind, Lindsay. My friend Warren Buffett put it quite well when he said, "Of the billionaires I have known, money brings out the basic traits in them. If they were jerks before they had money, they are simply jerks with $1 billion. Morons become rich morons, and kind people become kind rich people." Yes, I get it. I'm sorry for generalizing. My bad. It's okay. But the real question concerns me is your belief about rich people stopping you from becoming wealthy yourself? Arjun pauses, a question in his smile. Well, dang. What other negative assumptions have I made? I wonder. I open my journal. I feel like I'm in school again, and your Mrs. Myers, my world history teacher, about to start her lecture. Was Mrs. Myers a good looking older man with salt and pepper hair and an undeniable charisma? Arjun wiggles his eyebrows and gives me his good side. Actually, she was petite and blonde with big bosoms. Good for me. Arjun claps once with a satisfied smile and then continues. What are the 5 words that will describe you at your best? What words do you want others to use to describe you? It can be a word or a phrase. Think about that for a minute and let me know what you come up with, Arjun adds, hopping off the table and walking over to the sea wall, leaning against it to gaze out at the sea. What are 5 words that describe me at my best? Passionate, for sure. What else? Kind, maybe. And grateful. I scribble down the first thoughts that come into my brain, writing and writing until my hand begins to ache. When I finish, I feel like my entire soul has purged itself on paper. Arjun knows I'm done, too. He strolls back and casually sits down on the picnic bench. I can tell you were passionate about what you were writing. What did you come up with? He asks gently. I wish my father would have spoken to me the way Arjun does, instead of in his stoic, judgmental manner. I am passionate, kind, loving, caring and grateful. Those are powerful words. Arjun bows his head. And, now, write down the 5 words you would never want to be associated with. These are words or phrases that you are disgusted by. You frantically hate the people with these characteristics. I think about this for a while as Arjun sits silently beside me. Finally, I place pen to paper and begin writing, slowly at first, then the ideas pour out. I am not lazy. I am not weak. I am not untrustworthy, or a loser, or insincere, or selfish. I'm not like Scrooge, either. I read aloud. That is 7 already. You want more? I close my journal and drop my head into my hands, suddenly overwhelmed again. Let's work with those. Those are your negative identities or shadows. You believe that you are not weak, not untrustworthy, not insincere, and not selfish. But if you look closely, you will see that the focus of these words is on what you do not want. These are the areas you are resisting the most. What you resist the most persists as your shadows. For example, not selfish, you are giving energy to being something you don't desire to be, investing energy into protecting yourself from being selfish. Similarly, you are protecting yourself from being untrustworthy. Shadows are the biggest waste of your mental energy. This resistance is the #1 cause of failure in life, career, and business. So how else am I supposed to think of 5 words that don't describe me? But isn't that a good thing that I'm protecting myself from being selfish? I'm confused on this one. I understand. But here, let me ask you another question. Why are you trying to be not selfish so I can be selfless? I say, isn't that the point? To be the opposite. But then, why don't you say selfless is one of your identity traits, rather than not selfish? Because you told me to think quickly off the top of my head. Fine. But if you were to say selfless as your identity word instead of selfish as your shadow, how would you feel differently? I might feel more excited about my identity as a giving person. I don't know if I'm on the right track. But again, I think my mind is opening up to new ideas. Is that what you mean exactly? What do you think would happen if the entire world chose being selfless as who they are? We'd have a perfect world, I reply with a laugh. That is not true, Lindsay. You will have a lazy and boring world. We can debate that later. But your selfishness is here to serve you, to inspire you to action. If a person doesn't have aspirations to motivate them, how will they progress? Unless and until you stop resisting your selfishness and start embracing it, you will not find your true freedom. Love yourself in spite of your vices. Now, let us look at your shadow identities. Find the one with the highest emotional intensity. Which would you avoid or resist the most? I would say being untrustworthy. I looked out across the ocean, feeling a wave of melancholy sweep over me, in contrast to watching the rolling, sparkling blue waves glinting with joyful light. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, when I can't depend on someone. I went through a lot when I was younger, seeing my mom unable to depend on my dad, and I guess that affected me a lot. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, that would be what I call your prime shadow, the one that is limiting you the most. Once we integrate this shadow into your identity, you will immediately see the most amazing changes take place in your life. Your strength lies in your gift, your true identity. Your massive opportunities lie in your weaknesses, your shadows. Are you ready to tap into those massive opportunities now? I tear my gaze away from the ocean and focus on Arjun's patient smile. I am? That's good to hear, Lindsay. If you listed untrustworthiness as a shadow, it means trust was an important part of your original tribe, your family. Perhaps you haven't received enough validation from those who are most important to you. This might be why you feel so strongly about untrustworthiness, because they might have told you were untrustworthy. Some people might have gone through trauma, hurt or abuse that redefined them, but as you didn't mention it. I'm guessing that wasn't the case for you, unless you consider having my haircut too short in 6th grade and everyone calling me Larry because I looked like a boy. Trauma, then no, that's debatable, Arjun says with a smile in his voice. But as I examine my childhood now as an adult, I realize that there were some tough times that really did define me as a person up until now. Seeing my mother do the work of two people deeply affected me. She was my mother and my father, took on both roles since my father couldn't share in the hard responsibilities of raising a child. He was there for the fun, but never the true parenting. In many ways, it was this that had made me a strong woman, back when I was one, at least. Arjun stares at me. Where did you go, Lindsay? Just thinking about why I have a strong association with that word. I don't feel comfortable telling him the rest. Arjun may be a great coach and a wonderful man, but he isn't my shrink. So, you're saying I feel inadequate as a trustworthy person, and that's why I assumed this is a shadow rather than my identity. Precisely. Your mind believes you haven't done things to show trustworthiness. Your mind attaches trustworthiness onto you as a shadow because it is too important for you. You may have done 1,000 things to show that you are trustworthy, but your mind chooses to disregard them. So what can you do to fix that? Go shadow boxing and use some big gloves to eliminate that shadow. I laugh. Or just take the darn thing and shove it down the incinerator. He chuckles but shakes his head. You know, I don't believe in eliminating anything. I want to integrate that shadow to be a coherent part of you. I had a feeling you wouldn't make it easy. Exactly. Arjun stands and leans back against the railing, crossing his legs in front of him. According to Dr. Daniel Siegel, integration is a central organizing principle for how the human mind develops across your lifespan. Integration creates a rhythm in which energy and information are free to flow across your entire self, helping you to be childlike again. I believe integration is the pinnacle of emotional and social intelligence. How do you remember all this stuff, Lindsay? You seem distracted. Yeah, well, I have good reason to be a little distracted today, but I'm trying. Come on, hit me with intelligent stuff again. I cup my ears with my hands. I promise to listen better. He sighs and glances at his watch. I have to remember that I'm not paying him for any of these lessons, and he's a busy man, though I fully intend to pay him back one day. Arjun continues. Tell me 3 instances where you displayed incredible trust to someone or something. Okay, it's time to pull up my big girl panties, even if they are still full of sand. I can do this. I take a deep breath and let it out slowly. With Charlie, my ex-fiancé, I never gave him reason to doubt me. I never cheated or betrayed him. He was the center of my world, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt all the time. Arjun seems to contemplate me a minute before continuing. Excellent. Share another experience where you were completely trustworthy, possibly from your childhood. My parents could trust me from the time I was young. I didn't lie to them, even if the truth might get me in trouble. That was good of you, Lindsay. Now, please share one final one from your business life. All right. Here's the thing. I was always 100% trustworthy to my business partners, even when I was bleeding money. I have never taken a single penny that didn't belong to me. I may not have been the best businesswoman, but I was extremely trustworthy to my clients. Arjun nods approvingly. Do you see how, Even after all these examples of your trustworthiness, you wrote it as a negative. I am not untrustworthy versus I am trustworthy, yeah. Why is that? I guess we always see ourselves in a more critical light. Yes, but it is also because you haven't allowed this characteristic to be part of you. All these years, you have been trying to avoid being untrustworthy, but not necessarily be trustworthy. Does that make sense? Sort of. Why am I doing that? Because your entire relationship network is built on the foundation of the relationship you had with your primary influences, whether it be your father, mother, or another role model. In your mind, your inner child does not want to be rejected by these figures, even though you are 40 years old. So you either imitate your parents or you become the opposite. But you are not a child anymore. You can own yourself and integrate the trustworthy part of yourself. I'm all for it, Arjun. Let's integrate away. Where do we start? Very well. Take the first example of your trustworthiness and in your imagination bring that closer, bigger and more colorful. What does that mean? It means magnify the experience by really listening to what you heard, really visualizing what you saw, and feeling what you felt. Bring the experience closer and closer to you. Bring it 1 inch away from your nose. Then, step into this experience. Red linoleum tiles shine as a woman leans down on her mop. Her daily apron is tied around her back, and her brown hair is pulled up in a knot. My mom. The worry lines in her face smooth away and she smiles as I set the car keys on the table, 5 minutes before curfew. It had taken a lot for her to let me go to the school dance alone that night. Especially since I'd just gotten my license, but her trust in me had proven to be merited. She could count on me to honor my commitments. After the first experience, Arjun asks me to do the same for the other 2, and I do, really visualizing and stepping into those memories. The one with Charlie is particularly difficult because he dumped me even after I was completely devoted to him and bailed him out many times over. Still, I do it, and I feel stronger because of it. What do you feel now, Lindsay? I hear Arjun's voice cutting through the ocean breezes. It was easier than I thought. I am starting to feel that I am trustworthy. I usually overlook this about myself, but I have to say, I've been a model daughter, boss, and girlfriend in this respect. I really have. I never associated these experiences as part of me being trustworthy. When I deeply connected with those just now, I saw myself in the mirror of trustworthiness. Excellent. Your identity is just a collection of your most cherished memories. When you deeply recollected the memories that demonstrated your trustworthiness, you felt it as your new identity. It will wear off sooner than you think. That is why you need to install this new identity into your psyche permanently. How I mean, 40 years of thinking a certain way is not easy to change. But I suppose that's why I'm here with Arjun, to try and rewire my brain. By religiously practicing the same remembering exercise for 3 minutes for the next 90 days. Showing your brain that you're a heck of a trustworthy person until it becomes ingrained in you. Do it as soon as you wake up and right before going to sleep. So, let's see. All I need to do is remember the 3 instances I was trustworthy and experience it as if it is happening then and there. That is a lot of imagining to do. I laugh. A low, sardonic chuckle. You can do it, Lindsay. It's all about conditioning your mind. You can do the same for all of your shadows, and you will be a better version of yourself starting today. Once you build your empowering identity, you will automatically align yourself to true north. Your identity defines your destiny. Even criminals and sociopaths act in a way that is consistent with who they believe they are. One of the strongest forces in human psychology is to be consistent with their definition about themselves, their identity. That makes complete sense. Time to build a solid identity. When I was young, I did not have a great role model for business in my community. I admired Peter Drucker a lot as a great business strategist. So early on in my business career, I built this identity for myself. I am the Peter Drucker of business strategies. Hey! I like that. And then I went back and asked myself, what are 5 words that define Peter Drucker? What is the prime question that Peter Drucker would ask on a consistent basis? What values does Peter Drucker have? What beliefs would Peter Drucker have about business? What state of mind would he live in most of the time? That's some serious idolizing, Arjun. It was. And in less than an hour, I had built a new identity. Dang is right. So, what have I learned here? Like, If you could roll it all into a little ball and present it to me, you've learned that the goal is not for you to become Peter Drucker, but to become the best version of yourself. You can start building upon yourself, spending years and years working on the next version of yourself. Or, you can re-engineer what successful people in your industry have done and build that in less than 1 hour by modeling them. Which one do you prefer? I'm all for less work, Arjun. Remember the 20-80 rule: 20% of the effort creates 80% of the results. He laughs. Precisely. That is your opportunity today. But remember that for your new identity to stick, you need to spend time daily declaring your new identity. Tell me, who could be a great role model for you in business? Billionaire entrepreneur and founder of Body Shapewear Company, Spanx, Sara Blakely. I am the Sara Blakely of technology, I exclaim. Not only is she an amazing businesswoman, but on a personal level, her product has saved me from a tragic case of muffin top more than once. Yes, okay, good. And what are the 5 words that describe the one and only Sara Blakely of technology? Passionate, adventurous, creative, successful, and trustworthy. I don't hesitate a bit. I admire this woman like no other, except my mother. Perfect. These are the words that now describe who you are, your new version of yourself. Notice you said trustworthy. He winks at me. Now, let me ask you the magic question that will help you discover your rule for stepping into this new identity. What should happen for the Sara Blakely of technology to feel successful? If she gives her best to her customers, then she knows she is successful. If she gives more value than she receives, she'll be able to acquire massive wealth. And I'm pretty sure she wears clothes that don't have seaweed and barnacles stick to them, I add with a smile. Okay, Lindsay, let's take this all the way home. Later tonight, sit down and ask yourself the same question for all the words that describe the Sara Blakely of technology's identity. What should happen for the Sara Blakely of technology to feel blank? Okay? Roger that, Captain. He playfully swats my arm. Lindsay, you have much humor, passion, and intelligence to offer the world. I can feel my eyes getting watery again and I clear my throat. I'm glad you found me, too. Thanks for believing in me. Now, time for shopping, he announces, glancing back in the direction of the shops. You've been too kind already. It's no problem. Really, I've gotten used to smelling like a mermaid, and it's no problem for me to help you. Besides, my sister tells me there's nothing like some new clothes to make you feel a fresh start. He laughs heartily, that laugh I envy. Smart sister. After another winding ride through the posh LA streets, Arjun finally brings the Ferrari to a halt in front of a beautiful, modern building. JCPenney, I ask, knowing it's anything but Barnes of New York. He smiles back, putting the car in park and pulling up the emergency brake. He may as well have said, you can't afford it land, for that matter. I've heard of the famed Barnes, but my wallet had never granted me access before. Arjun reaches into his pocket and retrieves his wallet, pulling out a handful of $100 bills. Buy what you need. I flush with embarrassment at the wad of cash in my hands. On one hand, I'm too full of pride to take it. On the other, well, he's handing me a bunch of Benjamin Franklin's. He always was my favorite almost president. I've never felt so pathetic, but special at the same time. This man has managed to care enough for a lifetime in just a single day. Go buy yourself the basics, and I will come back and meet you here, out front in 2 hours, okay, Arjun? If you want me to buy basics, Target or Old Navy will suffice. I just don't feel right taking, Lindsay. Stop. He takes my hands and shakes them lightly. This is all part of your education. The first step to wealth is to get out of a scarcity mindset. You understand? I nod reluctantly and slink out of the car. He flashes me one last smile before I shut the car door. The little Ferrari drives off down the street, and I'm left standing in front of the store with my new friend Benjamin Franklin. Here goes nothing, pushing through the large glass doors with beautifully polished brass handles. My breath catches in my throat. So this is how the other half lives. Everything sparkles and smells of big money. But I tell myself to hold my chin up. A few older sales ladies smile at me with slightly raised eyebrows. A la pretty woman, but they say nothing. They're no different from you, Lindsay. That's for sure. But it's a hard sell, even to myself, as I feel the grit of sand between my toes. Walking through the store, I catch my reflection in about 10 different mirrors. Besides looking like a sea hag and my hair needing color and a trim, the most noticeable thing about me is my posture. My shoulders sag like a deflated Macy's Day Parade balloon. That's been the hardest part of all this, dealing with being let down. But did life let me down, or did I do that all on my own? If the latter, I need to forgive myself. Today is a new chance to change all that. I mean, it's not every day someone hands you Ben Franklin's to go shopping with. So suck it up, Lindsay. Straighten those shoulders and find something in this store that makes you smile. Retail therapy at its best. A 4-pack of Benjamins and 90 minutes later, I stroll through the glass doors into the bright sunshine, maybe not a new woman, but at least a better smelling one. I spot Arjun sitting in his car by the curb, eyes closed, smiling at the sun. God, I envy his ability to disconnect and enjoy simple pleasures like that. The shopping bags rustle against my legs as I jog over to his car. A few sharply dressed pedestrians glance at me as they walk by, as though I don't fit in, but I don't give a rat's ass anymore. He looks at me inquisitively. Looks like you found what you needed. Hell, yeah. I've been wanting 5-carat diamond earrings my whole life. Thanks, Arjun. He raises an eyebrow at me but doesn't blink. Fine, I wish I'd gotten 5-carat diamond earrings, I say, climbing into the car. Instead, I just got some shirts and pants and undergarments. I was beyond reasonable and trustworthy. Thank you, I said sincerely as I hand him back the remaining cash. Arjun takes it with a smile. It's nice to see you smiling, Lindsay. Yes. Sure, it's just clothes, but for the first time in a long time, I feel more hopeful. Until I remember the diamond ring I had to give back to Charlie. If I had a voodoo doll of him, it would go right into the incinerator, and the disposal would actually work this time. He glances down at the shopping bags by my feet, and a concerned look comes over him. Do you have a place to stay? Well, since I decided against permanent residency in the under-the-ocean condo earlier today, I shake my head, refusing to make eye contact with him. Crashing on my friend Erin's sofa had been home as of late, but I was staying with a friend, and how are those living arrangements going? I force a smile. Not well. I don't think I can go back. It was causing tension between her and her husband. Has she told you that? He asks, dark eyes full of concern. No, but I overheard them arguing about me last night. He made it pretty clear I'm not welcome. I'm sure that is one reason why you ended up on the beach today, Arjun said gently. He's probably right, though it's a combination of everything, their argument. Last night, my feelings of inadequacy, frustration, anger, but mostly, hopelessness. Though I feel much better right now. That's great to hear. Is it because you are focused on the ideas that you are learning? No offense, but it's mostly because the new jeans I got look amazing on me, I say with a laugh. Good, what a few new things can do. But tell me, do you have anywhere else to go? I shake my head. I hadn't thought that far ahead. After all, I'd figured I would be dead by now and real estate wouldn't be exactly a priority. Honestly, I'll probably have to move back in with my parents in Kentucky. They have to take me in, right? God, I feel like such a loser. I begin feeling the weight of failure all over again. Arjun gives me a side glance. You can stop beating yourself up, Lindsay. You may have failed at a few things, but you are not a failure. I rub my forehead, aching from the mental whirlwinds of the afternoon. I wish I could tilt my head to one side and drain all negative thoughts out of my air, just like I did with the ocean water. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm trying. Really. It's just so hard. Yes, it is. Change is never easy. But it's going to get better. He pauses to consider something, then continues. I actually have a proposition for you. My company has several apartments in the city we use for traveling consultants. How can this man be so generous and invested in my well-being? I look Arjun dead in the eyes and shake my head vehemently. I can't accept any more from you. You've already given me too much, Lindsay, he says, his voice full of fatherly concern. Maybe that's it. Maybe he sees me as a daughter he wants to help. It's not a gift. You said you're a software engineer. I can certainly use your technology skills on some things over the next few months. And the apartment is temporary. We will need it back for an upcoming project next quarter. You can stay there for the 90 days and work on yourself while also doing some consulting for me in the interim. By the time you leave, you will have rediscovered yourself and will be ready to find your place. If not, then you can go home to your parents. Sound fair to you? I don't know. I'm completely flummoxed is what I am. It was too much to accept. The kitchen is stocked. The apartment is furnished. And there is Wi-Fi and a laptop, so you can keep moving forward with your business. My only other caveat is that, if you ever feel despair like this again and are thinking of taking your life, you will call this number. He handed over a piece of paper with the following phone number written on it: National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. 1-800-273-8255. My throat aches with unshed tears. This is real. Someone is helping me. Real help. Not just pretty words that sound great in theory. I don't even know what to say. This is not a handout, Arjun says, as though he can feel my uncertainty. This is a help up. Remember, a few decades ago, I accepted money from a homeless person. I was in a similar place as you are now. What I'm doing for you is paying his kindness forward while also getting something in return through your expertise. Arjun pulls the car over to the curb and puts it in park. Resting his arm across the steering wheel, he leans toward me. Lindsay, you've had a long day, and we have talked about many things. I have work to finish today. The apartment is over there. He points over my shoulder. And the beach is that way, he says, pointing to his left. It's your choice. Where shall I take you? He's not being difficult, nor pressuring me, just asking what I want. Life or no life. It's going to be a struggle. I still feel pain every time I think of Charlie and all my failures. At least now I have a friend, and that's something. But is it enough? I swallow the dumpling of emotion clogging my throat and meet his unwavering gaze. Mustering up all my courage and strength, I nod. To the beach, please. Arjun's smile wanes, and he looks stricken. You sure about that? Well, yes. It's no Ferrari, but I can't just leave my custom ride on the beach, can I? He shows me the below QR code on his iPad to his complimentary training link. It will help me reinforce what I am learning with him. I use my phone's free QR reader app to scan it. I am ready. Image. Chapter 4. My world is upside down. On time for our planned 7 a.m. meeting a few days later, I ring Arjun's doorbell and wait. His house is gorgeous, one of the most spectacular on the beach, but as welcoming and warm as Arjun himself. I'd found the lovely apartment he'd brought me to a few nights before to be the same. Like a warm, safe hug. Once he'd gotten me all settled in and I'd fawned over the awesome accommodations, he'd left me to my devices. Naturally, the first thing I did was fire up that laptop and Google him. It hadn't taken long to find his name on the list of Forbes' wealthiest people, which listed his net worth, and the number had been jaw-dropping. Arjun is a multi-billionaire. And his humble, giving air only makes me realize how wrong I was. That wealth and bad character go hand in hand. On the other side of the door, feet scuffle along tiles, and Arjun opens it. He stands there, smiling mischievously. Good morning. Come on in, Lindsay. How do you feel today? Oh, I see you are free of seaweed and sand, so things are already looking up. Smiling, I volley back. Yes, and I'm still alive, which is the icing on the cake. Even better, I have this amazing coach. He's really a life and game changer. So yeah, things are looking up. He turns, leaving the door open so I can enter his home. All settled into the apartment. I nod, closing the door behind me. Yes, thank you. You are welcome. What was the most exciting thing you've done this week? So far, well, let's see. I got that high fashion modeling job I wanted. I made the cover of Forbes magazine. And oh, hey, I won the lottery. I smile, dropping my purse into the chair by the door. Oh, good. Then I can send you an invoice for my services. He smiles, showing his perfect white teeth. That will be $2 million, please. I laugh and then shrug. Nothing too exciting happening yet. Except that I started seeing the world differently. I feel like I have a second chance, although I wish things would move a little bit faster. I follow him into the courtyard where he keeps a variety of potted plants in colorful mosaic planters. Soon, it will. And you've already done some great things on the project I sent you. My project manager is very impressed with your skill so far. His words fill me with pride as he takes a seat in a chair next to a bamboo plant. Have a seat, Lindsay. Can I get you some water or tea? No thank you. I'm all set. I sit across from him, enjoying the warmth of the afternoon sun on my face. Then, tell me, what do you remember from our conversation last week? Arjun folds his hands in his lap. I let out a slow, deep breath. Mainly, that I need to find compelling reasons to achieve my goals. Very good. What else? The concept of role modeling, I go on, as simple as it sounds, gave me an aha moment. I am the Sarah Blakely of technology. Good, good. Did you do your assignments? He raises one eyebrow. Yes, I did, I say, my smile wavering a little. You're wondering why I am so adamant about you doing the assignments. He tilts his head and watches me carefully. Is that right, Lindsay? Yes, I admit. I'm a responsible person. I'm not going to mess this up. Of course you're not, but I wanted to check your level of commitment. I'm ready. Arjun, I'm surprised by his more serious tone today. Then again, I know he's pushing my buttons and pushing them hard, to test me. He smiles, satisfied. I can see that. Now, what did you learn from doing your intelligent actions more than anything else? I learned the power of momentum, of taking action immediately and generating energy. Finding solid, compelling reasons to achieve my goals helped me redefine what I believe to be possible. Honestly, last night, I was starting to feel confident again, like I used to feel back before. We'll just call it my sand and seaweed-free days. Before, what? His eyes narrow. Nothing. I look up. I don't feel like talking about that. Before I forgot how strong I was, Arjun's face lights up like the right words have settled on his heart. It makes me feel more relaxed and receptive. Incredible job, Lindsay. Now let me ask you this. Are you feeling happy today? Okay, let's not get carried away there, I say with a chuckle. So, no to happiness. My Ferrari is in the shop today. My grin fades, and I shake my head. No, Arjun. I mean, I've made some progress. But how could I be happy when my life is still so messed up? Lindsay, happiness is not an outcome. It is a state of mind. No matter what happens in your life, you can give yourself permission to be happy. Look at babies. They are happy all the time, except when they are hungry, in physical pain, or when they need their diaper changed. But adults often unlearn how to be happy, because we focus too much on material pleasure. We ignore happiness. Let me prove it. You said you had some good things happen this week. What did you feel then? Well, I felt happy for, 2 seconds, but I thought you meant in general. But those 2 seconds were gifts to you, correct? I sigh. Arjun, you're starting to make sense right now, and I'm really not cool with that. I laugh, shaking my head. I did have some pretty awesome moments this week, so why wasn't I thinking about them? And that, he reaches for his tea kettle and pours himself a cup, is how we selectively ignore happiness. See, the key has nothing to do with the Ferrari. His words simmer in my brain. They simmer so long, my brain turns to soup. What you're saying makes perfect sense, in theory, Arjun. My problem is, how can I be happy when there are so many problems? He nods fervently. But happiness does not come from external sources. You should enjoy the world's beauty as much as you can. Enjoy all it has to offer, including material things, but true happiness comes from within. I try wrapping my head around his idea, but I still have trouble with it. We need a certain amount of money to be comfortable, because let's face it, I don't live in a hut at the top of a mountain. I live in LA. I'm going to need a few things. He sees that I'm having trouble swallowing this concept. He tries again. Lindsay, if somebody owned a Ferrari, and they think the Ferrari is making them happy, they're totally wrong. It is the feeling of significance, of excitement making them happy. You don't need to own anything for this internal feeling. The moment you focus on the Ferrari as a source of your happiness becomes pleasure. Pleasure has an expiration date. Happiness is eternal. That sounds beautiful. It does. But what if you're homeless? What if your air conditioner is broken, and you live in a small apartment? How do you tell someone, just be happy? Isn't that a bit irresponsible and a lot unrealistic? Arjun closes his eyes, a peaceful smile materializing on his face, as though he's been waiting for that question. If you tell yourself that your happiness will come only when you get X, Y, or Z, then no, you'll never be happy. But look at babies, they come into this world with nothing at all, and as long as they are taken care of, they are happy. That is everyone's natural state. Him and these baby comparisons. But the baby still has conditions. I challenge him. He wants to be fed. He wants to be comforted. He wants sleep. Only then is he happy. Have you seen a crying baby, Arjun? It's very unsettling. An adult is no different, except he wants other things besides his bottle and a clean diaper. The Ferrari replaces his bottle, and the mansion replaces the clean diaper. Arjun smiles. And let's continue with that example. For babies or adults, wanting food and comfort are biological. Yes, you must meet those fundamental needs to be comfortable. What I'm saying is, out of peer pressure, the adult chooses the Ferrari to replace the milk bottle, chooses the mansion to replace the clean diaper, and opt out of true happiness. You can have them all, but you can be perfectly happy without them. We are not born wishing we had material things. As we grow up, we learn to be fearful by modeling our parents and our culture. I call it psychological fear. Since we don't know how to process this fear, we associate it with everything we don't have. The cars, the relationship, etc. We manufacture and distribute psychological fears that enslave us into sorrow and keep us from happiness. Arjun wins again. The little bugger. He's right. If I tell myself I'll only be happy when I own the Millennium Falcon, then I'll forever be scouring the galaxy in search of happiness. Better to search a little closer to home. Darn you, Arjun, I mutter. He laughs so hard, he almost falls out of his chair. Lindsay, a few minutes ago, you asked me how could you be happy when your life is messed up. My question to you is, how could you not be happy when your life is messed up? I narrow my eyes at him. Is this a trick question? No, it makes perfect sense. You believe that happiness will come after you succeed, whatever you define as success, right? Nope. It is the other way round. Happiness directs you to success. A great state of mind will lead you there. So, if it's true that your life is totally messed up, you should focus on creating happiness and celebration more than somebody who is already successful. Wow. I never thought about it that way. What if he's right? That would mean I've been approaching my search for success all wrong this whole time. Good, he says. Think about a time you made a huge mistake in your business or life. Right away, my thoughts go to Charlie. Never saw that one coming. What state of mind were you in just before making that decision? He asks, crossing his legs and getting more comfortable. I had just come out of a bad place in my life and thought Charlie would be the one who could fix it for me. I was stressed and in a stupid state of mind, sitting there, staring at Arjun's potted plants. I'm transported to one afternoon with Charlie. Setting my keys and work briefcase on the kitchen table, I was completely frustrated and exhausted. Ugh, you wouldn't believe the day I had. There is this client that I've been meeting with for the past 3 months, and today she decided, Charlie, did you hear what I said? Charlie was glued to the TV. ESPN. Can you just give the basketball game a break for a few minutes? I begged. Scowling, Charlie retorted, Hon, this is a playoff game. Nuff said. Right? We can talk later. Dropping into a chair, I went numb. Then, I yelled. I accused him of not caring anything to get his attention. He got so mad, he left the living room, yelling, I come home for peace and to forget work. I try and help you do the same, but every time you complain and I try to fix things, you shoot me down. What am I supposed to do about your problems if you don't want solutions? Lindsay, come back to earth. Arjun brings me to the present. His kind eyes smile softly. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the huge mistake I made. I'd completely lost control of my life and was so stressed. I said some terrible things, I say, fighting the swelling sadness behind my eyelids. It's okay. Do you think your stressful state of mind influenced your behavior? Maybe. I think about it a minute, as my mind plays over the situation again. Hesitantly, I nod. I guess so. Is it safe to then say that your state of mind affects your decision-making? If you're in a good state of mind, you're more likely to make a better decision than when you're in a bad state of mind. That seems fair, I say. So, why do you think losing control was a mistake? He asks, pouring himself another cup of tea. Maybe Arjun's happiness is in that tea he's drinking. Maybe I should buy myself a whole case of it. Because, I sigh, standing up to pace the courtyard. His questions make me a little antsy, and I have to walk around or go crazy. When I cooled down from that bad experience, I went back to him, my ex, now, and we talked about it. I told him how I felt. He explained that he did care, but he thought the only way he could show it was by either offering solutions to my problems or giving me space. He didn't realize I was looking for understanding, not a solution. I see. That must have been frustrating. Now, tell me, would you have made a different decision had you been in a different state of mind? Probably. I reach out to rub a leaf from one of his hanging ferns. Probably, or yes, he asks. Yes. He stands to stroll around, picking up a watering can to begin watering his plants. A person like him could hire landscapers and housekeepers to do that for him, yet he waters his plants. Wonder if it has to do with his theory that material things don't bring happiness. Maybe watering his plants makes him happy. And have you ever thought of the possibility that if you had altered your state of mind, your result might have changed? Too well, dang. I think I'm gonna need a drink. Argentine vodka. He chuckles. Not good for your clarity, Lindsay. And that is what we are striving for. I was just kidding, I say. Mostly. I know. Now, think of a time when you took a risky decision that turned out pretty well. Let's see, about a week ago, I decided to get in the Ferrari. Which is pretty much the adult equivalent of a child getting into a white van to take candy from a perfect stranger. Some might say that was a risk, but I met you, and my life suddenly changed for the better. I smile across the courtyard at him. He pauses watering his plants to point at me with the watering can. I like the way you think. Thank you, Lindsay. Any others? Before you and I met? Let's see, I think back to my few elusive positive experiences. Despite all the stuff that's happened to me, I still think deciding to be an entrepreneur at the age of 25 was one of the greatest decisions I ever made. I was so sure of myself back then, so convinced I was going to be a force for good in this world. I felt significant, powerful. I was a businesswoman. I started building great connections and networking with ambitious women like me who wanted to change the way women thought about business. Eyes glowing with nostalgia, I relax significantly. Chin up, I can feel the difference in my posture. Arjun grins, watching me. Sounds like you were in a great state of mind then. An amazing state of mind. Do you see a pattern here? He says, setting down the watering can and sliding his hands into his pockets. Your destiny is shaped by the decisions you make. Your decisions are determined by the state of mind you make those decisions with. Your state of mind is decided by the meaning you associate with your daily experiences, so you're saying it's all one happy cause and effect relationship. Like eating ice cream. Eating it in a good state of mind, it's delicious and satisfying, no guilt. But in a bad state of mind, you end up eating 10 gallons of it, and having guilt worthy of a therapist. Precisely. And if you're integrated most of the time, you will make great decisions most of the time. In Eastern tradition, this state of mind has a name. It's called Ananda. Living in Ananda is the second force that shapes all successful professionals and entrepreneurs. Accelerator 2. Live in Ananda. Ananda. I repeat it just the way he says it, with the accent on the first syllable. Ananda. Awesome. What does it mean? Exactly, it is a Sanskrit term meaning extreme happiness. Living in Ananda means that you are essentially in one of the highest states of being that you can achieve. I understand, I say, snapping my fingers. It's like when I've just finished eating an entire bag of Lindt chocolate truffles. He raises an eyebrow. Sea salt caramel. Is there any other kind? To raise my hand for a high five, and Arjun, older man billionaire, L.A. Gandhi, reaches up and smacks it like a boss. I knew I liked you for a reason, I tell him. He sits down in a lounge chair and puts his feet up as he crosses his arms over his stomach. Anyway, there is a part of your brain called the limbic system, which controls your emotions. Within the limbic system is an almond-sized area called the amygdala that is associated with fear and stress. Let us call it an almond, for now. One of the purposes of this almond is to help protect you from future problems. Through anticipation. Isn't that what we are doing when we are stressed? Are we not predicting what is going to happen next? Through our emotions and physiology, I take a seat across from him to listen. It's a perfect day, And there could be worse ways to spend it than listening to Arjun talk about parts of the brain. I guess so. Go on, please, he nods. Now, imagine you spotted a stick in front of you, and you thought it was a snake. Your almond alerts your body in a fraction of a second and predicts what needs to be done next. There are 3 commonly accepted responses. You could freeze and be bitten by the snake. You could fight the snake and defeat it. Or you could flee the scene. But it is only a stick, so your brain immediately lets every system know there is no harm. This process happens so fast it might not even make logical sense to us until later. Wow, go amygdala, I cheer. Yes, go. Imagine a long time ago, 2 brothers, Joe and Jeff, without an amygdala. They both see a snake while hunting in the woods. The snake approaches Joe, and Joe walks toward it. The snake bites Joe, and he dies. What do you think Jeff will do the next time he sees a snake? Set it on fire? He was the caveman with fire, right? Unless it was his brother who knew how to make the fire, in which case. Lindsay, there's a twinkle of laughter in his eye. Ugh. Come on. Jeff will run away. Obviously, and why would he do that? Because he can predict what will happen, I ask. And sure of my answer. Remember that Jeff doesn't have an almond to predict danger, though, so he'll walk toward the snake, get bitten, and possibly die. What a great story, Arjun. A real pick-me-upper. I roll my eyes playfully. I know, right, he says without missing a beat. So what did you understand from Joe and Jeff's story besides avoiding snakes? That the almond in my brain will help me predict what will happen. But what does this have to do with Ananda, I ask, shielding my eyes from the sun coming up over the edge of his roof into the courtyard. Because whatever emotions you feel alter your current state of mind. What happens to you when you think you see a snake? I am going to feel fearful, and not run towards it, most likely. And what is fear? He presses. An emotion, perfect. So your emotional state changes when you think you see a real snake in front of you. True or false? True. Are you asking, or telling me? I smile. Telling you. Good. So, why are emotions evoked when you see a snake? His hands waver around and around when he talks, and I'm starting to love the sound of his voice, like hearing an old friend. To alert me of impending danger. Exactly, he nods. Alert is the key word here. Your brain is a prediction machine, too. Your amygdala works together with other parts of your brain to evoke emotions to alert you to take action of imminent danger. In business or life, the danger isn't a snake. It can be an angry customer, a disgruntled employee, or even an insensitive spouse. That's all good, I say, scratching my head. But I still don't get how everything you're saying is related to Ananda, Lindsay, he says, sitting up suddenly and leaning forward. Imagine a pond that is perfectly still, something you might see on computer desktop wallpaper. Now imagine someone drops a rock into that pond. What happens? You see a big splash. Let's suppose there's a devastating winter one year, and the pond freezes to protect itself. The winter ends, and the spring comes, but the pond still is afraid of the winter of life. It still has a layer of ice on top. In order to protect you from the winter of life, your mind does the same thing. It freezes so emotions cannot come out. If you drop a rock onto the frozen pond, will there be ripples? No, the rock is going to bounce right off the ice, but the pond is not getting enough of the sun's energy for the plants to thrive. So, the sun pokes a hole in the ice to reach beneath the frozen surface. It allows the sunlight to help nourish the plants. Just like that, your mind cannot exist frozen forever after the winter of life is gone, or it becomes eternally depressed. So it pokes a hole so emotions can come out. But all the emotions that were suppressed by the frozen ice cap want to rush out of it. Guess what kind of emotions come out first? Negative emotions like anger, guilt, or sadness. Aren't the plants supposed to be happy that it is not dark and that there is a hole with sunlight after all? I ask. Great question. He shifts in his seat, seemingly impressed with my question. That would be completely true if there was no fear. But remember, the pond is still afraid of the catastrophic winter. So it reacts with negative emotions. If a stone falls in that place, the ripples created are bigger because the ice around doesn't allow the rest of the pond to absorb the ripples. That makes sense, I murmur, enthralled with his tale. The problem occurs when the pond reacts more than it should to the dropped stone in that melted area, and the ripples are too large. The result is chaotic ripples. In an ice-filled pond, The same way you might be reacting to the spring of life with unproportioned guilt, anger or sadness or some other negative emotions. That is how our minds ruin the springs of life, the opportunities of life. The pond by itself is almost never too chaotic, but it thinks it is chaotic because the waves are out of control in one spot. Your emotions work exactly in the same way, Lindsay. When we are out in the field trying to grow our businesses, people might reject you, or worse, be indifferent to you. You might feel lonely that you are in a boys' club and might not feel the confidence to overcome the roadblocks that you face on a daily basis. You might fail miserably. I know that all too well. In our minds, Arjun goes on explaining, we might create that layer of ice, too. The ice of rigidity or certainty. Like the pond, we freeze our minds, so we do not feel the impact of any rejection or failure. It's a defense mechanism, but remember, if we do not allow ourselves to be open to the rocks of rejection or failure, you won't feel the magic of the flowers, the success, or the fulfillment that might fall into your mind's pond, either. You can't get to Ananda being in this state, so again, it's up to me to change my state of mind. I understand it, but it's so hard to do that sometimes. I pick up a piece of dry plant leaf from the glossy tile floor and start ripping it apart. I understand, Lindsay, but yes, it's up to you. Just like the pond, most of us have the same frozen surface with one small, unfrozen area, which will help us vent our true feelings. The ripples of chaos or uncertainty that we feel through this unfrozen area is the major negative emotion that we experience. I call it prime negative emotion. It is through the eyes of this emotion that we see the world. Some people say, I feel guilty all the time. Other people say, I'm sad all the time. Others think, I'm angry or depressed. We associate our identity to our primary emotion. I used to say, I'm angry, as much as I said, I am Arjun. As I've mentioned before, if your primary emotion is negative, like sadness or guilt, that is what your pond will feel. Soon, the pond starts to believe that this is who you are. I take it all in. It's a lot to absorb. I'm not sure I understand everything he's saying, but if only a small fraction finds its way into my brain, then I'm already ahead of the game. Are you following me, Lindsay? I'm trying, okay? For us to live in Ananda, we must do what I call power ceremony. Power ceremony is the process that manages your prime negative emotion and returns your mind to celebration. A non-reactive state, reducing those ripples of negative emotions until they are transformed to achieve Ananda, like what I ask, challenging him. Power ceremony is the process of opening the edges of the holes or vents in your pond's ice. You experiment with different emotions than you're conditioned to feel. Good, bad, positive, negative, as long as it does not hurt others. Just let those vents start to break through the ice. And what happens when the pond is one large hole? It's time to fish, I say, trying to relieve a little of the stress I'm feeling now by not understanding him. The bigger the hole, the less ice there will be on the pond. You got it, he cries. Wow, and here I was thinking that all of this was flying over my head. What if another winter of business failure or relationship rejection comes? Your mind will think, it is too cold. I'm concerned that my master is getting too exhausted. Let me help you to protect yourself by building more ice. It all makes sense to me. What emotion do you feel most of the time in your life? He asks, tilting his head. Not sure. Think about it. For a lot of people, it is guilt. For others, it is sadness or anger. Some people feel overwhelmed all the time. And for some, happiness or joy is their primary positive emotion. Let me see. I ate 10 gallons of ice cream with a Kahlua drizzle. I didn't pull through for my family. My business went belly up. And I have a nagging sense that I did something wrong. I would say I feel guilty all the time. It doesn't have to be that way, Arjun says, leaning forward again. His eyes gaze at mine, as his hands fold across his knees. You don't need to feel guilty for anything, but I do. Then, guilt is your prime negative emotion. And unfortunately, this is one of the primary emotions many women see their world through. I used to get really angry when I was younger. Like a lot of men, it was my primary negative emotion. We project our primary emotions onto others. For a good part of my life, I even thought that anger was the prime negative emotion for everybody. Since your primary emotion is guilt, your neural pathway is paved like a highway to help you feel guilty. Your mind is conditioned to ask questions that produce guilt. It has a simple enough recipe for you to feel guilty, I nod in agreement. Mine sure does. Power ceremony is the process of regulating emotions so that you can choose to feel Ananda most of the time. You brush your teeth every day. You put makeup on every day. Power ceremony is the brushing of the mind and putting on makeup for your soul. During power ceremony, your whole brain, including your emotional brain, your amygdala, and the front area of your brain work together to achieve great outcomes. In the initial stages of power ceremony, you are simply managing your primary negative emotion. For me, it took years to practice to move out of my primary emotion at the time, anger. You can do it in weeks. Power ceremony simultaneously helps you neutralize your prime negative emotion and amplify a positive one. What does that mean, I ask, thinking how I want to go back to the apartment and process all he has said so far. Assess what I need to do to reach Ananda, then make a game plan for doing it. It means you will be not only able to manage your guilt more effectively, but also become more aligned to Ananda by simply following the steps we are going to explore. But let me ask you a question. First, if 0 represents absolute depression and 10 represents being in total ecstasy, or an Ananda, what number would describe the state you are in right now? I would say a 4. And that's a huge improvement from the sand and seaweed stage earlier this week. Will you be able to live at your full potential in this number 4 state of mind? No way, dude. He nods emphatically. Yes. How can you manage something if you cannot measure it? How can you improve your state of mind until you measure and assess your current state of mind? So measuring is the first step, I mutter. Once you know where you are emotionally, change your physiology. By changing your physiology, you feel any emotion on demand. Your body is made up of chemicals, you see. Mostly carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. It releases a wide variety of hormones based on what you feel. Like what I wish I had paid more attention in high school biology. If you feel fearful, cortisol and adrenaline are released. If you are happy, you release dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, etc. You release estrogen or testosterone when you feel aroused. As a woman, the more oxytocin you naturally have, the more stress-free and relaxed you will be. Power ceremony will do exactly that. Part of it had been recently proven by a Harvard study to simultaneously reduce your stress level by 25% and increase your charisma by 20%. Power ceremony is the act of celebrating you, your life and goals in advance until you reach your true destination. Are you ready for celebrating your life? Of course, I am, especially with a scoop of ice cream, and only chocolate on top. No more vodka. Arjun's bemused smile appears. I will show you. But first, you must stand up. Oh, this power ceremony thing sounds powerful. Indeed, I say, bubbles of effervescence popping off inside me like a bottle of freshly opened champagne. What is he going to teach me? I'm not sure, but for the first time in forever, I can't deny it. I am excited. Chapter 5: The Power Ceremony. I had no idea Arjun wore so many hats. Now, he's a Yogacharya as he stands tall and straight, holding his arms out wide like the Jesus statue in Rio de Janeiro. If you stand straight, he says, bend slightly backward, lift your head, and expand and widen your body by extending your arms for 2 minutes, you instantly reduce stress hormones by up to 25%. Really, I say. Wondering where Arjun gets his facts. Yes? The same action helps to increase your charisma levels by 20% or more, he adds. Your body is like a mystical treasure box. It can make you feel magical if you choose to. My eyes widen. Magic? Huh? Can it produce the 500,000 I owe? Now that would be magical, Lindsay. Arjun opens one eye and gives me that playful chastising look too. Which I've become accustomed. Your skepticism is part of the problem, which we will address another time. I wrinkle my nose at him but nod. Okay, continue. Do it exactly like this. Stand the way you would if you were absolutely unstoppable. Stand the way you would be standing if you truly were Sarah Blakely of technology. I close my eyes. Dressed in a dark navy-tailored suit, I stride onto an expensive stage. There, a female colleague holds a crystal-engraved award plaque. The award, for my business savvy, is placed in my palms as the audience claps and cheers. My family cheers. Even Charlie, the bastard, is there. So sad. Too bad. Charlie, I show him the amazing businesswoman he missed out on. You're doing great. Now, lift your head, Arjun says, reaching out to lift my chin with 2 fingers. Stand straight, Open your eyes and look up towards the left. Feel the center of your body, about 2 inches below your navel. Imagine that your core has grown roots to the ground like a tree. And now, take 1 step forward, feeling absolutely successful. Take 1 more step forward, as if you're unstoppable. I do as he says, taking 1 step, then another, feeling like I have made $1 billion selling Spanx. Arjun's gentle voice guides me through the power ceremony, which should, for all intents and purposes, be easy, but for me is difficult. Now, stretch your hands sideways, heart level, as if you're flying, and think of an experience when you felt loved by someone. Okay, now he's pushing it. I haven't felt that in years, but I will do my best. Physically grab that experience with both your hands and gradually reel it into you, dropping it into your gut, like you're hugging your own experience. As silly as I feel, I do it anyway. Warm, soft arms enfold me. Clear green eyes gleam with love towards me. My grandmother releases me from the soft, welcoming warmth of her bosom, handing me an ice cream cone. How was school today, Lindsay? I'm almost in tears, but I grab the vision with my grandmother in it and reel it in towards me. Now, Arjun adds, bring your hands back to your sides again and think about a time you felt grateful. Experience the feeling of your gratitude throughout every cell of your body. Physically grab that experience with your hands and embrace it, and again, drop it into the center of your body. Now, stretch your hands to your sides and keep them at your waist, as if welcoming a 2-year-old who is running toward you. Think about a time you felt proud and confident and feel that in your entire body. Pomp and circumstance. The graduation march plays in a gym crammed with families and friends. Butterflies of excitement flit around my belly as I walk the red carpeted stage to receive my diploma. Not only did I represent the first woman in my family to go to college, I graduated from UCLA with honors in engineering. I remember feeling so proud of myself and everything I had accomplished. Again, grab that experience and pull it to your center, open your fists, and drop it right below your belly button. I follow Arjun's instructions, waiting to see what comes next. Now, think about a sensual experience in your past. Do the same with that. Open your arms to it, take it, and pull it back in. Drop it into your gut. Allow yourself to feel it with total intensity. And lastly, think of a spiritual experience you've had and stretch your hands at the level of your head, as if you've crossed the finish line of a 100-meter Olympic race and earned a gold medal. Open your arms out wide in total joy. Grab this spiritual experience into your fists and gradually bring that closer and closer to your body, then drop it into your gut. Feel the unstoppable certainty from within. I'm feeling a little lightheaded and hungry, Lindsay. His lilting voice lowers as he gives me a mischievous smile. All right, I feel the unstoppable certainty. That's me, Lindsay Mitchell. Full of unrelenting awesomeness. It's not that I don't respect his exercise. I totally do. It's just that it's not easy making myself feel this way from one day to the next, but I'm doing my best. I take a deep breath and try to imagine myself like I used to feel in those early days of my startup companies. Lindsay, how do you feel now? Arjun asks me. A little better than last week, about a 7 out of 10. That's all I can ask for right now, and if you do it every day, you will only improve. Now, with your hands at your sides at waist level, think of a successful moment you've had in your life. Envision it larger than life. Hear what you heard at the time, louder than when you heard it. Feel the touch you felt at that time. Amplify these feelings, see them larger than life, stack them, so you feel completely unstoppable. I do as he says, imagining my graduation day like it was yesterday. I amplify all the feelings, like he says. On a scale of 1 to 10, Arjun says, what is your number now? I would say a 9, way better than the 0 I was last week. I smile. Honestly, I'm more excited than I've been in a long time, but I have to be careful. It could be fleeting. In the past, whenever I was this stoked about something, I've gotten hurt. Whether I failed in business or a relationship, the end outcome was always either depression or guilt. Depression or guilt. Really, that's all I've got. Excellent, Arjun said. Continue power ceremony, and you'll go up more and more each time. When you reach 7 and above, you might feel fear, Lindsay, and that is normal. Fear that you failed in the past. Fear that you do not deserve to succeed. Psychological fear is your mind's way of protecting you so that no one can break your heart. Your brain does not want you to open up the unfrozen areas of your pond and be vulnerable to rejection and failure. But that is when you need to trust yourself the most and focus on your outcome and ignore everything else, including fear. Once you do, you'll reach the next levels of success and fulfillment you always dreamed of. Will you trust yourself enough to allow yourself to be passionate and unfreeze your pond? I nod, feeling almost completely certain that I'll allow it. I'll try my best. Do better than try. Just do it, Lindsay. Okay? You have nothing to lose. Arjun's gentle smile tells me that he's right. I don't have anything to lose, really. No home, no honey, no money, and not even my favorite Zen coloring books. I've already hit rock bottom. I may as well believe in myself without fear. Have you ever watched people when they listen to something super inspiring? They lift their chin like they feel proud. That is precisely what I want you to do every time you feel low. Lift your chin, open your arms wide, bend backward slightly, and flood your mind with the deepest thoughts of love, success, pride, spirituality, and sensuality as you possibly can. Gradually, you will begin to open your eyes to a new world, a new beginning where you set out for this adventurous, rewarding journey of successful entrepreneurship. Plus, you might even grow a little taller and pass for 30-something. Arjun winks. As my arms lift, my posture opens, this time with true excitement. Call me crazy, but I think I'm starting to feel what Arjun says I should feel. True passion. Plus, I definitely would like to lose all those stress wrinkles that age my face. How are you feeling? He asks. Incredible. I really am. Thank you, Arjun. I am so happy to hear that. I truly am, Lindsay. He pats me on the shoulder. Now, for this next step of power ceremony, imagine there is a fly in your nose, and you are trying to push this fly out by blowing your nose. I cock my head suspiciously, but his face is as serious as a heart attack. Arjun is crazier than a bat, but I'll humor him. Yes? Just imagine you are pushing air out from your gut. You do not need to breathe in. Your brain will automatically do it. Let's spend 3 minutes blowing the fly away from your nose. Remember, you will do it in a guttural way. As silly as I feel, I continue standing and breathing, thinking of the imaginary fly as the poisons in my relationship, and I'm pushing them out of my body. The stains of my failures go away with every push out of my nostrils, face, and body. How will I look 10 years from now when I'm successful? Younger. 30 might be pushing it, but what the heck? Who will I be in a relationship with? Someone that makes me laugh for sure. How will I dress? Okay, it's been 2 minutes already. One more to go, Arjun says quietly. The first time you did this, I wanted you to allow yourself to daydream, but for the next minute, focus on your forehead right above the center of your eyebrows. How does he know that I'm daydreaming? I wonder. Regardless, I move my thoughts away and focus on my body's core. After a minute, he announces, okay, time's up. Now close your eyes and slowly breathe into your heart and breathe out from your heart. Imagine for a few seconds that you do not have a head and breathe in and out of your heart. Your body stops at your shoulder. Imagine you're breathing directly from nature into your heart. Breathe directly out to the nature. Keep doing it for 1 minute and open your eyes when you feel like it. I open my eyes sometime later to a smiling Arjun. He folds his hands in his lap. What if you could feel this way the rest of your life, Arjun? If I could live this way even half the time, I'd already be rich and famous. Great. Well, what you just did is a brief introduction to what I call accelerator breathing, which is a great tool inside your daily power ceremony. It is a simple technique I developed using 5,000-year-old Vedic traditions from India. Vedic knowledge has been passed from one generation to another to help them to keep their energy high while fasting for weeks, if not months. It's a tool you can use to alter your state of mind anytime, anywhere, in any circumstance in your life. It will help you give energy for working hard to attain the things you want, such as financial growth or a positive love relationship. If that is what you seek, I shake my head. Maybe I should get a dog instead. At least a dog is loyal, Arjun laughs, shaking his head. Lindsay, I love how you think. So you know, accelerator breathing will also activate the front area of your brain called the mid-prefrontal cortex. Let us call it the imagination brain. With a strong imagination brain, You will feel more and more empowered and able to handle stressful situations with a smile on your face. According to Dr. Daniel Siegel, your imagination brain, just behind the center of your forehead, is primarily responsible for a laundry list of things, including connecting with other human beings, regulating fear created by your amygdala, imagination, choice of response, empathy, morality, intuition, and last but not least, physical regulation of the body, helping you to be more healthy. Wow! That's a lot, I say. Who knew such a tiny part of the brain could do so much? Amazing things really do come in small packages, don't they? Indeed they do, he agrees. If you lived in this physical state every day, you could do the unimaginable. Do you think you could start every day feeling this way? Because if you start each day with the power ceremony for the next 30 days, your life could be completely different, you're right. I've always been jealous of people who can manifest wealth in the things they most want in life. I'm going to give it a try, though. I think I can do it. Good, Arjun says, nodding encouragingly. It is worth it. You'll need to practice, just like you learned to drive a car, ride a bike, or anything else in your life that required practice. I get it, I say, thinking back to my teenage driver years when I started out driving. Stick shift on my beat-up old Mustang. He demonstrates how to do accelerator breathing link image. Arjun continues. Just like you mastered driving, you will master Ananda. Practice makes perfect. When you practice breathing and activate more of your front area of your brain, you will feel empowered to confront your problems with confidence. You will step up to the plate and say, "Let me handle that," when everyone else is afraid, which is another feature of your imagination brain. That is when a true leader is born within you. He pauses and pours himself a glass of water. I take a seat opposite him and smile at the new feelings of empowerment creeping back into me slowly. Arjun goes on, throughout history, we've seen these kinds of people. Remember when we talked about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, and Mother Teresa? They weren't that different from you. They all stepped up because they all had great missions in life. I strongly believe they each had very active front brains, which is something we all need to use. It's the most human part of us. Many people believe the brain is designed to survive. I believe the brain is designed to thrive, but we are conditioned to survive. We need to stop focusing on limits and start using this front area of the brain operating system, which was perfected to do its job around 75,000 years ago. Wow, I exclaim. The final step of power ceremony is to focus all your energy using power questions. Sounds intriguing. It is, he replies without missing a beat. What is the mind? First of all, it's a process that regulates the flow of information and energy into and from your body. It decides whether the water should splash a little bit, a lot, or not at all when a rock is dropped on the pond. Lindsay, do you know how the pond decides how to respond to a rock shore? How dare you jump onto me without permission? I smile. That is it. That is how ponds do it. It is not that simple for human ponds. We use our mind to respond to rocks using thoughts. You have around 60,000 thoughts a day, of which around 58,000 came directly from yesterday. You and I are creating the same reality for yourself every day of your life by having the same recycled thoughts. What exactly are thoughts? Okay, you're going a little meta on me. It's like asking me to describe a color to someone who can only see in black and white. I admit. Thoughts are questions and answers. Every moment of your life, you are asking and answering questions. If so, is it possible that your 60,000 thoughts a day, 30,000 questions and 30,000 answers sounds mind-boggling, but illogical? Okay, so is it safe to assume that, if you change those questions, then you could change your thoughts, too? If so, how do you change your thoughts, Lindsay? By asking new questions. Holy smack. I get it now. All this time, I've been asking the wrong questions. He smiles and wiggles his eyebrows. See, there is a method to my madness. And this is why we conclude our daily power ceremony with power questions. Think about Google. You use Google to search for things. When you search for something in Google, what does it do? First of all, even if you try, how do I train my dog, or how do I buy a cat? These are the questions. So if you type into Google's search box, you're typing a query. And what does Google do? Lindsay, Google provides me with more search results than anyone human would ever know what to do with. Well, That's true. 2. He laughs. But what is its basic function? I sigh, letting out a deep breath. It searches data servers in different parts of the world and accumulates information related to your topic, then returns the answer to you, I say with pride. So the first thing Google does is focus on one outcome, right? When you ask Google the question, how can I manage stress, does it give you the answer for how to peel a banana only if Google is on crack, Arjun? Or tired at the end of a long day and wishing to mess with me? He laughs again. If Google did that, then they would be out of the search engine. Business in a week. Questions help you focus on a specific outcome. He makes so much sense. It hurts. Like he's doling out little nuggets of goodness, much like a perfect chocolate truffle that I've been starved for. Arjun leans closer to me, and by now, I've learned that he does this when he really wants me to understand something. This is exactly what your mind does, too. When you ask, why am I so unlucky? Why is God doing this to me? Why does my life suck? You are focusing on that outcome. If you ask, why does my life suck? What answer are you going to get? Something like, because you're a complete screw-up, and your childhood was bad. Is that the answer you need, Lindsay? I would say no. I would say that's my mind being a little witch to me, but that is what your mind does. It will be a little stinker to you if you ask the wrong questions. So focus on questions with answers you actually need. I stare at Arjun. I have a deep love-hate relationship with him right now. He's so right. I can hardly take it, and I have to change my questions. You're going to tell me changing questions is as easy as changing socks, right? The second thing the question does, he goes on, right through my humor armor, questions eliminate alternative possibilities. So, let's go back to our Google metaphor because I know how much you loved it. He shoots me a grin. Loved it so much, I could explode from happiness. Don't explode yet, Lindsay. Wait until you have reached your goals to be blown away. Okay, he chuckles and puts both hands up in a gesture to stop me. If someone asks, why don't aliens come to Earth? That question assumes that there are aliens, but it also assumes that aliens are not coming to Earth. So while it opens up one possibility, it eliminates another one. So, when you ask a question, be careful not to eliminate certain possibilities. For example, if you say, why am I sad naturally? It eliminates the possibility of being happy. If you ask yourself why you are sad, do you think you're going to get an answer that will make you happy? No, I say, staring straight ahead. Because that is the question I've been asking all this time. And the third thing that a question does, let's keep with our Google example. If you keep asking how to be happy, or how to be sad, Google will suggest what you're interested in. For example, if you search, how to make a girl laugh, then Google learns that you're interested in making girls laugh. Next time you start typing, how to, Google will autofill the rest of the information to, how to make a girl laugh. What is the next thing Google does? He asks. It sends you advertisements for things that make girls laugh, like watching a man try to squeeze into Spanx undergarments. Yes, he cries, clapping. And your mind does the exact same thing. Your mind will habituate your repeated questions and autofill your questions just like Google. For your own simplicity, questions habituate and autofill your thoughts. I let out a low chuckle. He pours me a glass of water and offers me a cookie off a plate. God knows, with no perfect chocolate truffle in sight, I need a cookie right now after a revelation such as that one. He takes a bite of cookie and talks with crumbs on his lips. By habituating our questions and answers, we are solidifying our thoughts. Through these solidified thoughts, much like the ice in the pond example, we habituate our emotions. Through these predictable thoughts and emotions, we stagnate our mind. Through all these, most of us become slaves of our own minds, our past. I stare at him so hard, I think my eyeballs are going to fall out. I think I need a drink after this discussion. The fourth thing a question does, my eyebrows fly up. There's a fourth thing. Man, these questions seem more integral to living than food. You need good questions to keep you healthy more than you need food, Lindsay. Here is a classic example. If I ask, why is my life a failure, or what are 3 reasons I failed in business, what does this question assume? It assumes that you are a failure. Assumptive questions are the most dangerous, or the most rewarding ones. So again, asking the right questions is imperative. I can see what you're saying. It's like I've suddenly begun wearing new glasses. This time, with clean lenses instead of ones covered in grime. Great. So, tell me, why are assumptive questions important for you, Lindsay? If you were to ask the question, what are the reasons for my success, your brain assumes that you are successful. Naturally, your brain selectively seeks those reasons that made you successful. It is not only eliminating the possibility of failure but also assuming that you are already successful. Asking a question like that one might feel weird initially, but you keep asking it, and after some time, it's going to eliminate the negative possibility. So, I'm practically rewiring my brain. I say, wow, this is also amazing. Seriously? Arjun. I might have to go boil my head after this. It's so overwhelming. No, please don't boil your head. It would completely ruin your hair. Arjun smiles. By the way, I believe that your mind is capable of answering any questions. It's far more powerful than Google. The fact that Google has become a verb, or Amazon has revolutionized shopping, or Apple has become almost $1 trillion company today is because a few people were willing to ask quality questions. Sergey Brin and Larry Page of Google asked how they could become the epicenter of this new thing called the internet. Jeff Bezos of Amazon asked how he could create the most customer-focused company in the world that delivers goods and services to people's homes in a more convenient, inexpensive way. And most importantly, Steve Jobs asked how he could innovate technology in such a way that it will make people stand in line to get it. Sony was in the music business for decades, and all of a sudden, this computer company called Apple showed up with something called an iPod. Apple kept asking the question, how can we make it even more convenient for our raving fans? How can we improve our products dramatically and create a cell phone with no keypads? How can we use everything we know to create a new type of device called the tablet no matter what the outcome was? All solutions came from asking and answering a series of high-quality questions. The realization that I've been doing it all wrong for years sets me back on my proverbial heels. What questions can I ask instead? Not, will my day suck again today? Or, how will I ever make my minimum payment on my credit card? Or, how many scoops of ice cream with Kahlua does it take to drown my sorrows? Those questions assume a negative connotation, and ice cream should always have a positive connotation. People ask me all the time, what is the big deal about this question thing? Why is it important? How is this going to change my life? What they don't realize is that they are asking me a question. Arjun laughs at the thought. He gets up and stretches in the way he taught me earlier. It's nice to see someone practice what they preach. Follow me inside, Lindsay. It's getting hot out here. He heads into the house, and I follow. Arjun's home inside is full of beautiful, homey things. Not at all like a billionaire's home, but more like someone who enjoys art, pottery, and simple furniture. He stops in the kitchen and begins pulling out foods from the fridge, laying them on the counter. Salado. Sure, thank you, I say. I'm stunned to realize it's already lunchtime. As Arjun prepares a salad, he says, think about the 5 things questions do. They help you focus on the outcome. They eliminate other possibilities. They help you habitually internalize questions themselves. Pre-assumed questions help you pursue your success and dreams. They help you innovate through imagination. By consistently asking questions, you will tap into those inner resources which will help you to be happy. He washes his hands in his beautiful, polished steel sink and begins breaking a head of lettuce apart. Taking a seat at the counter, I sigh and rest my chin on one fist. Well, you've told me all about questions, and I understand it will help me grow to the next level. But what questions do you think I should ask? He takes out a knife from a drawer and starts chopping up cucumber and peppers. The questions you ask need to make you feel profound. So ask questions that trigger empowering, positive emotions. Let's start by asking some that make you feel grateful. What are you grateful for right now? Whom are you grateful to? Ask those questions, and you intellectually begin to understand what you are grateful for. But you need to understand it emotionally, too. How do we emotionally understand something? You ask the why question, like why are you grateful to that person or for that experience? Let's try it now. What are you grateful for? Why are you grateful for that experience? Whom are you grateful to? Why are you grateful to that person? Okay, I think I can do that. It's funny. It all feels like common sense, but I've been forgetting to do it. I've been forgetting to ask myself who I might be grateful to and for what reason. And I am here to remind you, Arjun says, munching on a slice of red pepper. Now that you intellectually understand it and emotionally feel it, it's time for you to internalize. How, you ask? By asking the question, how does that make you feel? Let's experiment with a different set of questions. Stand straight and ask yourself these questions. Who do I love? Who loves me? Why do they love me? How does that make me feel to be in love? I think about all these questions, but it's hard, knowing that Charlie is no longer in my life. My 5-year-old, stubborn brain tells me good riddance, but my heart has had trouble internalizing this. I know you're probably gritting your teeth thinking of those questions, Lindsay, so now ask a few that will help you feel your best, such as, what are the 3 most exciting experiences in my life? Why are those the most fulfilling experiences? How does that make me feel to have these amazing experiences? Integrate these questions into your power ceremony and feelings deep into your body. Then rank the answers. If 0 means you are feeling the worst, and 10 means you are feeling the best, what number are you in right now? I am totally at 10 after this enlightening lesson, Arjun. Seriously? Thank you for this fabulous experience. I reach out for a napkin and dab the corners of my eyes. I am so emotional today, but it's liberating knowing there's hope for changing the way I think. You are welcome, he says, searching the refrigerator before holding up a Dijon mustard and then continuing when I nod my approval. There are the questions that I ask myself every day. You don't need to use my questions. You can create your own. Do you know who else is creating questions for you? The US government. I know about the deep state, I say with a sage nod. Arjun looks around playfully, as if he's being watched. No, Lindsay, the people in the tribe that you belong to. My 10 plummets straight down by a good 5 points. Is this a requirement? I want to demand. Because what Arjun doesn't seem to realize is that I lost that support system a long time ago. I'm tribeless, and suddenly, I've never felt so alone. Chapter 6. What tribes do you belong to? I can almost read your thoughts right now, but we're all part of some tribe, Lindsay. A group of people who believe the same way and act similarly. If you and I believe that rich people are crooks, then we are part of a group with similar beliefs, a tribe. If you are an entrepreneur or you want to be one, then you are part of that tribe. If you have a team of people who you work with, that is a tribe, too. Then I'm part of the Lindsay has messed up, but she's about to fix her life tribe. Is that a real tribe, I ask, feeling slightly better. Yes, he laughs. I believe you just made it one and became the president, the secretary, and the janitor. You might be wondering why it is important to learn about tribes. Here is the simple answer: your tribe makes or breaks your dream. Is that compelling enough? You see, Lindsay, an amazing or awful thing happens as part of that tribe. A few decades ago, there was a small group called the Seekers, living in a suburb of Chicago. One of their group members claimed to be receiving messages from outer space about the end of the world. She believed there would be an apocalyptic flood before the dawn of the 21st of December, 1954. She received the messages that a UFO would land on that day, and it would rescue true believers. Within their group, they started talking about it and believed it with every cell of their being. Suddenly, people around the neighborhood started observing this group and became curious about what was going on. More and more people joined the group. A few researchers from Minnesota, interested in studying the phenomenon of cult behavior, joined the group to observe and find out what would happen at the end when there was no flood. Although it may seem far-fetched to many, the group convinced themselves that the information channeling through was accurate. The more they believed, the more they convinced others. The more convinced others were, the more their own beliefs went over the top. The leaders of the group then instructed their followers to cut all communication from anyone outside of the group. With the external influence removed, which could have convinced the followers of the impossibility of their claims, the only proof the group had was social proof. At this point, people started showing greater commitment to that truth by selling their own homes and giving the money away to charity. Others quit their jobs. God, this sounds awful. There's no Kool-Aid involved, right? I said, as Arjun placed a bowl in front of me full of yummy salad. I couldn't wait to dig in, but first, I waited to hear how this story ended. Although some members were college students, Most followers were made up of people who would normally be considered rational and scientific, including one doctor. These so-called rational people made others commit even more drastically. Some of the group members left their non-believer spouses and all their earthly possessions. They were preparing for their departure to the imaginary planet, Clarion. Finally, the day arrived. The group expected a visitor from outer space to escort them to the spacecraft. As instructed by the message, they got rid of all zippers, brass straps, and other metal objects when midnight approached. The clock struck midnight. The spaceship did not arrive to save them from the anticipated cataclysm. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes went by. The group was stunned, not even a drizzle. A few hours later, the leader received another message that the god of Earth decided to spare the planet from destruction. The cataclysm was called off. The little group, sitting all night long, had spread so much light that God had saved the world from destruction. Wow, talk about spin-doctoring. The Inquirer couldn't have done it better, I murmur. What do you think happened, Lindsay? I think it was a form of mass hysteria, social proof playing at its best. I respond with enthusiasm. Excellent, Arjun says, pouring us 2 glasses of water and pushing one toward me. Social proof played the greatest role here, but what is the essence of social proof? How does it work? I'm not sure, I reply. It's hard to think with this delicious salad staring me in the face. Go ahead and eat, Lindsay, Arjun says, watching me take my first bite as I nod happily. Cult groups or tribes get their negative traction through what I call tribal push. Tribal push works, first by creating limiting questions inside of the person and directing her towards fear. We can only hypothesize about the questions that might have been asked, but I would think they might be somewhere along the lines of, how can I be special and be saved when, not if, the world ends? When, again, not if, a catastrophic flood destroys the world, where will I go? How did I become so lucky to be a chosen one? Who will be lucky enough to come with me? How much will I miss out on if I am not part of this group? On the opposite end, when group members started to ask their questions, for instance, what if the flood doesn't come? They were squelched. Another component of this was that, even within the group, the followers were instructed to support the leaders if there was a difference of opinion. So if one person would raise the slightest hint of doubt through a question, the others would align against him or her. The tribe pushed the group's questions to each individual, so they were conditioned to ask only those. Swallowing a bite of salad, I mumble, but this doesn't apply to me. I'm not part of any cult, though. I might consider joining an Arjunian cult. Well, that's good news. And no, there's no Arjunian cult, he says, smiling, pulling up a stool and sitting to eat next to me. You are not part of any cult, but we all are part of some groups, tribes who believe in something with absolute certainty. They are either empowering or disempowering you, or doing both at the same time. It could be your religion, denomination, ethnicity, nationality, work, your family, or even simply a group of friends. Believe me, each of these groups are unknowingly pushing their questions to you. Questions of scarcity and sadness, or abundance and freedom. Almost everyone has an agenda, I clarify. Whether they are consciously aware of it or not, precisely. The second way tribal push works is by adaptation of vocabulary. We are trapped into our current reality through our limiting vocabulary we use to experience life. The vocabulary you use is how you associate meaning in your body. Traditionally, if you think about it, most people use about 2,000 words in English. Even most writers use less than 5,000 words, generally speaking, in their books. Shakespeare used around 15 to 16,000 words in his works of literature. He did it well, I add. He did, he says with a nod. But what is so important to realize is that, most of the time, your experience in life is limited to the quality of the vocabulary you have. If you say good about how you feel, and you mean it, you are going to feel good. And if you sincerely say you are excellent or outstanding, then that's what you're going to feel. Have you ever seen people or children who are impatient? They don't know what to do, so they go to a psychotherapist. Suddenly, they have this new term for what they might be feeling, ADD, attention deficit disorder. We don't even take the time to say the whole name. They have a shortcut for the disorder. Yes, I'm ADD. I don't have enough attention or time to say attention deficit disorder. Arjun laughs, and something inside of me splits and lets out a rolling chuckle, as well. Yet they feel good that they have ADD. Why? Now they have a name for what they are going through. There's nothing wrong with me, I just have ADD. What this means is, through vocabulary, people generalize how they feel. For example, for an extended period in my life, I believed I was feeling anger. Anger was the only emotion I felt. Whenever I felt something, I thought it was anger because it was the only label I had for every negative emotion I felt. Whenever I felt something different, I would still generalize. I'm angry. I could have been feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, or even annoyed, but I would not have known this, because the vocabulary bucket word I kept using was anger. If you're a child, and your father says, rich people are crooks, and your mother says, rich people are alcoholics, you will most likely have a negative association to money. You start to think, being rich is bad, because you have negativity associated with it. Even if you have the opportunity to become wealthy, will you do the right things that will get you there? Sounds like my life, I say. You're hitting a nerve with a freight train, Arjun. Tell me, how? So I put down my fork and stare into my salad, a mishmash of different foods, much like the mishmash of emotions I feel whenever someone talks to me about wealthy people. Well, on one hand, I want to be independently wealthy. I don't want to worry about paying my bills all the time. I wish any children I have in the future would not have to worry about college, but on the other hand, all the wealthy people I know gloat. They gloat about their vacations on Facebook. They gloat about the wonderful private schools their kids go to, and, internally, I know that I don't like those qualities in a person. So maybe I don't want to become one of them, and I'm subconsciously keeping myself from achieving that. Arjun nods. So you avoid wealth without realizing it. Let's look at a similar example. You enter a store as a child and ask your dad if he can buy you a book or toy. Your dad says, that's expensive. We cannot afford it. So, afford becomes part of your vocabulary. When affording becomes part of your vocabulary, do you know what you're going to say even when you're a full-grown adult? I don't think I can afford this car. I don't think I can afford to lose my job. Or this person. This is because the word afford was added to your working vocabulary through tribal push without you even noticing. Okay, I get it. But what am I supposed to do? Completely change what everything means to me. I can't just change my past and my associations, Arjun. You can. You rewire yourself, and transform your old vocabulary with a new one. Catch yourself doing this. When you say, I cannot afford this, ask the question, is it really true that I cannot afford it today? For example, I cannot afford a vacation. You cannot afford not to take a vacation. In reality, if you're not going on vacation, you're limiting your income by lowering your performance and creativity. If you have a vocabulary that allows you to say you cannot afford a vacation, you need to start questioning it. Ask questions like, how can I afford a vacation? What will I do to afford this vacation? Or change the vocabulary altogether. How can I enjoy a vacation instead of affording it? How can I pay for a vacation and enjoy it at the same time? Remember, quality of your experience in this planet can be raised through the quality of your power questions. Arjun dances a little on his stool at the counter and begins eating his salad. I laugh out loud at his antics. So you raise your standard by raising your vocabulary, he adds for emphasis. By raising your vocabulary, you're essentially telling your brain that you have higher standards. Don't settle for good or very good. Demand remarkable. I get it, I say, polishing off my salad. When you start changing your vocabulary, the emotions associated will also change. Arjun smiles and returns to his lunch. Even as he eats, he continues to talk. People who upgrade their vocabulary with higher quality words create higher quality emotions that can transform their lives. In the Seeker's cult, I would suggest the vocabulary they used could be something like believers, destruction, apocalyptic, channeling, preparing, commitment, giving up, contributing, emulating, and so on. By itself, consistent use of this vocabulary would force people to act on their false conviction, to the point that they would sell their house or to give up their spouses and their children, Arjun adds. What I can't help the bark of astonishment that erupts from my lips. The doctor and his wife left their 2 kids with their aunt, supposedly to make the arrangements. The aunt was worried that the children were neglected and took the children in. Can you imagine the sense of abandonment? No. I'm still amazed at how people get swept up in this, I say. The third way tribal push works is through social attunement. Arjun adds ours is a social brain. You get socially and neurologically attuned to the emotions and beliefs of the tribe. Do you know that a person in a mob operates from 50% of their intelligence? For us humans, there are 3 types of neurons, cells in our brain, that are specifically built to help us be social. We use them to connect with each other deeply. Your brain has cells called spindle cells that will help you identify the emotion of what another person is feeling. And yet another type of cell, called mirror neurons, get you to mirror what others are feeling. Then, there's another type of cells called oscillators that allows you to affect them. It's like Hitler giving his hate speech to Nazi Germany. He would have used his spindle cells to get a feel of his audience, mirror neurons to experience what they feel, and oscillators to influence them. It can be good, bad or ugly depending on the leadership of the group. I call it synchronization. Through social attunement, a cult or a group will attune its members to whatever the group feels through synchronization, the power of suggestion, I say. Always influencing behavior. Exactly. Members have no idea why they are feeling what they are feeling. Have you ever had an experience where you were happy all day, but then you talked to a friend who was depressed, and then you felt bad for the rest of the week? Not that I recall, but I'm fairly sure my friends felt that way after talking to me. I frown. After talking to me, they probably felt compelled to go home, listen to some Nirvana, wear dark clothing, eat 5 large pizzas by themselves, and become incoherently depressed. I'm sure I had influenced people with my state of mind at some point. Why do you bring it up? I ask. Because if you associate with a group of people who believe that life sucks, a group of people who believe the economy is going to go bad or believe the world is going to be in a worse place in the future, then you are part of that tribe, and naturally, this is going to be part of your reality. Your reality is your perception of the world, and your tribe greatly affects what you see in the world. With tinted glasses, you only see what is wrong in the world. They will guarantee you will experience only bad things. You are the average of the 5 people you emotionally associate with. You are the average of your inner tribe. In other words, your income is the average of the 5 people you emotionally associate with, so is your relationship or health. I have seen this time and again in the millions of people I worked with. Wow, this is sobering. But many of the people I associated with were successful, I say. Even Charlie, oh, heavens no. Charlie was the biggest loser of all, yet I spent 3 years with him. So I suppose, listening to him that whole time greatly affected me. Suddenly, I can't believe I let myself listen to negative words for so long. Lindsay, Arjun says softly, would you rather be part of an empowering super tribe or one that is enslaving you? Super tribe, for sure, I say. Mama didn't raise no dummy. Exactly, so how can you shift out of your tribe? I ask. You need to begin the process of detaching from your enslaving tribes. You need to find new tribes that have better beliefs than what you have today. Right now, I really have no tribe, Arjun. Good. That is better than having an enslaving tribe, Lindsay. Join a super tribe or start your own. Connect 2 of the most amazing people whom you know, and the 3 of you start a super tribe. Then, find other like-minded people to join you, one at a time. There are exciting people on this planet, plenty of them. For you to attract them, you need to become one first. If you do, they will come find you. How do I select my super tribe members? I ask. I'm sure there is a fine line, but where is that line between being a healthy individual to part of a limiting tribe? Great question. There's a huge difference between a positive tribe and a negative, dangerous one. If you are looking for growing your wealth, find people who are wealthier than you. If you want better health, find those who already have that. Ultimately, listen to your gut brain. Gut brain, yes. According to the latest research from Stanford, you have 3 brains. Your head brain, a heart brain, and a gut brain. When you did breathing through your heart, you activated your heart brain. Your gut brain is even more powerful. It produces 90% of the serotonin and 60% of the dopamine in your body. Holy moly, your gut will give you a more accurate reading on people and situations than your head brain. Listen to your gut. It's been scientifically proven to work to our advantage and should be used when selecting people for your super tribe in personal or business life. He is clearly pretty thrilled about these discoveries he is sharing. That is truly astonishing, I say. Look at your current tribe from a bird's eye view. Is this a positive tribe? Is it a group of friends meeting for some lunch and laughs? Is it driving you to perform better? If so, that is an empowering tribe. Associate more with these people. Then, ask yourself, is a group constantly negative, or trying to isolate you from your friends and family? Then you should question their motives, and run away from this tribe. Abandon the tribes you no longer belong to. I feel good about this. I should have run away from Charlie long ago, because I knew his views were not aligned to mine. He was bringing me down, pure and simple. It all makes sense to me now. Once you create a super tribe, Arjun goes on, the best way to get the optimal outcome from the new tribe is by consciously start asking power questions of the tribe. Not only in your personal life, but also in business. In fact, your business becomes exponentially more successful when you create it as a super tribe. Do you want to know the key ingredients to a highly successful business super tribe? I do. Then listen close, my young protege, and prepare to have your eyes opened. Chapter 7: The 3 flares in business. There are 3 flares in businesses. Arjun begins. 1 is the technician, the doer, who performs the hands-on part of a job in any business. I call them artists. There are also the managers, who inspire and empower these artists and build the teams. The managers talk about efficiency and performance improvement. The managers are the result-focused, getting things done folks. And third, there are leaders, visionaries with a million ideas, the innovator, the creator. She shows her vision to the team and heads the whole operation. She doesn't carry out the artist's tasks. You need all of them in proportion to create your business as a super tribe. But they also need to learn to coexist without killing each other. We'll get into that more another day, but let me give you an example why that is important, and then we'll be finished for today, okay? I'm all into flair, as long as it doesn't turn into 60s hippie jeans with the little embroidered mushrooms down the leg, I say, cheerfully spinning in my chair to face him directly. I've listened a long time today and want to absorb every bit of knowledge as I can before we're through. Imagine a plantation filled with crops perfect for harvesting. The leader, who owns the business, her manager, and her artists decide to meet on the edge of the plantation before they begin harvesting. They agree to meet at 9 a.m., although the manager and artist secretly didn't believe the leader would arrive on time. After all, she is always late. She is always thinking about new ideas and envisioning new products and services. Besides, she is in constant contact with the customers who will purchase the crops. They couldn't possibly understand how many things she needs to do to move the business forward, and thus, keep all of them employed. As expected, the manager and the artist arrive on time. And, as expected, the leader sends them a text that she's running behind, but will be there shortly. After some time, the manager makes a decision. You know what? It's about efficiency. We're wasting our time, and lost time means lost revenue. I know what our leader needs. What she wants is results. So, he instructs them to start harvesting. The artists are so skilled, they harvest almost half the plantation in a short time. The manager assesses their progress and considers some process improvements. You know, he says, there is one way you could increase your harvesting efficiency. He articulated and implemented his super efficient harvesting plan and then had them stop, taking a break every half hour. Their efficiency increased dramatically, Arjun explains. Soon, the last crop was harvested, well ahead of the deadline. The manager felt so proud. Just as they were shutting the machines down, the business owner, the leader, arrived. The manager practically ran to her in his excitement to have finished without her guidance. Before he could even open his mouth, she was staring in slack-jawed shock. Oh my gosh! You harvested the wrong plantation, she exclaimed. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Peter Drucker, I say, familiar with his ideas. Correct, Lindsay. The leader is the only person who knows where they should be harvesting. Leaders ask questions like, are these the right plantations to harvest? In other words, is this the right market to explore? Who is our niche? How can we innovate and add more value to our clients than anyone else in the market? The manager is always thinking about efficiency. All he knows is that there are crops that need to be harvested. Why do I wait? Let's be efficient. Let's harvest it. The artist is simply following the instructions of the manager, cutting wood in the best possible way. Now the question for you, Lindsay, is which of these three roles describe you in your business? This is a toughie. Considering I'm the one who does, or did, everything in my business, I would have to say the artist, though I also managed myself, and I was also the leader. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm the artist, I say finally, since I was the engineer coming up with the business solutions. He smiles widely and taps his fingers on the counter. Precisely. And you know what? Most small businesses in the US are run by artists. Because at some point, we worked for a company as a technician for a long time and realized that we could do better. So we started a business and ran it like an artist. Who do we think like? Who do we hire? Whose mindset do we have? Artists. We hire more artists like us. Our company becomes a sorority for artists. That sounds like my company, I say hesitantly. I would never have thought about it that way. I thought I was the manager and the leader. I hired other software engineers like me to run my software company. Lindsay, that is the artist's mindset. If you are a true artist, then you need to eventually hire a leader for your company, or you must become that leader. When you are just beginning, it might be very difficult financially. So what do you do? Easy. I clone myself. With 3 Lindsays. One can be Wonder Woman, one Athena, and one an Antigone. Then I can do everything. He laughs, shaking his head. Where will you get the money to hire a leader if your business is not doing well, much less purchase a cloning machine? That's true. Cloning machines are quite pricey these days, and I think they only spit out cheap. We may have to settle for the store brand knock-off Lindsay. Yes. And they always break down right in the middle of cloning. Last thing we need is a half a Lindsay, with the leg of Athena, a bracelet-wearing arm from Wonder Woman, and the rebellious spirit of Antigone. He smiles. Okay, here is your answer. You have a manager and a leader inside of you, even though you were an artist for a long time. That's why you started your business. You believed that you could come up with new ideas and manage it at the same time. But what happened was you ignored the uncertainty and focused on what was known to you, being an artist. So what is unknown here? How to innovate and manage effectively? I take a guess. Totally feeling his vibe. I get it. Excellent. You consciously set aside time to master your business as a leader and a manager. Remember, your strength lies in your gift, your true identity. Your massive opportunities lie in your weaknesses, your shadows. So today, you work as an artist. Tomorrow, you work 2 hours with a manager's mindset. Every day, you think like a leader for at least 1 hour. That is called mastering your business. Most entrepreneurs don't master their business. They work in their business, being artists all the time and not devoting enough time to managing or innovating. It makes total sense. If you are in the business of creating mobile apps, working in your business is making more and more apps and not paying attention to anything else of importance. Now you became the operator of the business, not the owner. It almost feels like it's yet another full-time job. The only difference is, you're working 80 hours for less money. Sound familiar? Guiltily looking away in mock shame, I gulp heavily. That's what I was doing. So, how do I master my business? Mastering your business is finding and claiming new markets for selling more apps, marketing, finding better ways to make more of them, innovating, and delivering to your clients, and managing the inventory of the apps, optimizing. But most importantly, it's about building a great apps team. At this point, you own the business, and yet again, my mind is blown. All this time, I've been working, like a hamster on a wheel, wondering why I wasn't getting anywhere. It was because I was neglecting the other 2 people in my business, the manager part of me and the leader within me. Darn it, where was Arjun before I dug myself a $500,000 hole? Oh, wait, that question implies that Arjun was not around. It also implies that I needed help, but didn't receive any. I need to rephrase my question to something more positive. Here I go. Arjun, I say, putting my plate in the sink and smiling at him. How will I do things differently now that I have Arjun as my business acceleration coach? He smiles, closes his eyes, and nods. And that, dear Lindsay, is an empowering question. as well as a compliment. Thank you. Are you ready to learn how I'm ready? I smile. See you next week. Same day, same time. Chapter 8 Conquer Your Past. The following week, Arjun requests that I meet him at the Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks Visitor Center. Although I've lived in LA most of my adult life, I've never been to Sequoia National Park, even though it's only 3 hours away. I have no idea what this man has in store for me, but knowing Arjun, some life-altering, mind-bending lesson is involved. As I drive to our new meeting place, I mentally prepare for our meeting, even smiling to myself quite often to trick my brain into thinking that I've achieved a complete state of happiness. Believe it or not, I think it sort of works. But then I start thinking of Charlie, of what he would think of me, getting all this psychological/business training, and a dull mood comes over me. Just as I reach the exit for the park, I plaster the smile back on, the biggest smile yet, like one that Lincoln wears on Mount Rushmore, and tell Charlie's ghost to suck it. After wandering the park's visitor center for a bit, Arjun walks in with a big, Arjun-like smile on his face. Hello, Lindsay. Hi, Arjun, I smile. What's with the natural setting today? Are you going to have me harvest a field or something? It's a beautiful day, and we all need exercise, don't we? Arjun chuckles. I guess, truth is, I feel like exercising right now about as much as I feel like a weak Chris enema, but I shrug, follow him toward Boyden Cave. He laughs. You don't sound too enthusiastic. You know, exercise has been proven to release endorphins, which in turn makes you feel happier, Lindsay. All right. I don't want to admit I let myself go over the last few months. Okay, maybe a year, but I'm sure he can tell. Not to give excuses, but I did get swept up in work, then the deep descent of my misery. Once we're on the hiking path, though, I can't deny it. I can barely keep up with Arjun's spry pace. Who's the older one here? Sheesh. Lindsay, you need to exercise more, Arjun teases as we walk beneath the giant towering trees. Yes, I know. Thanks for rubbing it in, Mom. I puffed, my breath heaving in my chest. This trail has gone on forever. Is the worst of it behind us? Arjun laughs. Always so jolly, he is. That reminds me of a story. Oh, boy, here we go. He side glances at me. What? You don't like my stories? I love your stories. I kid, I smile, realizing that he and I have developed a rapport with each other, and I can say anything that pops into my mind. It's nice. Okay, good, because I packed them for you today, he says, quickening his pace, and I have to boost my energy to keep up with him. A woman is in labor. It's been a long day, but the pain only gets worse. She tells the nurse, it has been going on for a long time. You are an expert on this. Tell me, is the worst part over yet? Arjun breaks off and looks me in the eye. Don't we ask that, too, in our lives? When the economy was really bad in 2008, you probably asked that question. Are we at the end of the tunnel? I nod fervently. Yes, not just in 2008, Arjun continues. So, then the nurse says, oh, no. This is the easy part. The hard part is the next 18 years. He breaks into a hearty laugh and comes to an empty bench surrounded by lush, giant trees. I chuckle. Thankful I don't have kids to complicate my issues yet. Are we going to rest here? I tease. Or are we waiting until I collapse? He gestures for me to sit and then follows suit. Lindsay, one who does not enjoy the journey may not enjoy the destination. Arjun responds, holding up a finger. And one who focuses only on the journey may not even reach the destination. Either case, it is a failure. So, let's talk about failure. Yay, failure. That one. A topic I finally know something about. I roll my eyes. Shoot. Ask me anything without giving in to my negative reaction, he goes on without missing a beat. Okay? When you lost your first business, what did you feel? He asks. Ugh, I had no idea this would be our subject matter today. Regardless, answer, knowing that Arjun is on the road to some method with his madness. Let's see, where do I even begin? I sigh. I felt like I had let people down. I felt like people stopped believing in me, supporting me. And could I blame them? They trusted me, and I couldn't be entrusted with money anymore. When everything failed, they probably thought I was a big loser, So you felt horrible, Arjun summarizes. Of course, I still do. I feel like if people trust me again, I will let them down again. What else do you feel if you fail again? Arjun asks. I'll lose what's left of my credibility. I'll lose business partners and even more of my friends. I'll feel completely rejected, and to me, rejection is like being hit and run over by a truck, a big, double-rigged logging truck. I want to avoid it at all. Costs, I understand, Lindsay. But when you started your business, were you thinking of letting people down? Of course not. I felt fearless, like I could win and accomplish anything. I was certain I would succeed. I don't know what happened. I stop and drop my face into my hands. Hold it together. I feel a gentle hand on my back. Lindsay, when you start a new business venture, you don't think about failure. No one does. But when you began losing money, what immediately came to your mind? Everything I just mentioned. Like, what if I fail and let my family down? I do my best not to let the tears out. If I'd have known I'd have to drive 3 hours to cry amongst the trees, I would have stayed in LA and cried in private, where I would have had lots of tissues. Not to mention, I'm not exactly a pretty crier. If I really broke down, there would be red, snotty nose and swollen eyes in my near future. Even more of a reason to pull it together, woman. Okay, now listen, when people focus on failure, they are blindsided by their fear and the failure snowballs. So, it's like I took a tiny little snowball and rolled down the side of a mountain, turning it into a village-crushing size avalanche that I skied headfirst into. So again, am I perpetuating my fears? I ask. Something like that. But we're working on skiing lessons, Arjun replies, smiling, and crossing his legs out in front of him as if getting ready for a detailed explanation. You said you wanted to avoid rejection at any cost. Let's talk about how rejection can destroy your business. Here is one example. Suppose there are race cars that race in a desert. Every mile, there is a pole marking the distance. When these expert drivers race, they still somehow manage to hit this pole. But why? It's a lone pole in a wide open space. How could they possibly accomplish it? Maybe someone's hitting the source too much, I say in confusion. I mean, they could go in any direction they want. Arjun nods his head. You would think. However, they focus on avoiding the pole, and while trying to avoid it, they drive straight toward it. So, in trying to be overcautious, they could end up being killed. I'm not sure I buy that. Imagine how much worse it would be if you don't take precautions. Arjun, I understand, he says, nodding. I am all for being intelligent in business. I teach my clients intelligent optimism. We can discuss more about it another time. But precaution is one thing and focus on not failing is another thing. Here you shift your focus from what you want, success, to what you don't want, failure. You get more of what you focus on or what you want to avoid. Thus, when you want to avoid rejection or fear at all costs, you are driving 100 miles an hour straight toward it. Your success lies at the intersection of your highest aspirations and biggest fears. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Okay, Arjun says, using his hands a lot to make his point. Being an entrepreneur, you know if you don't get at least 5 no's, you haven't even started selling your idea. If you feel rejected on the first no, how can you market who you are and what your business stands for? You might think you don't need to do this. You can build a marketing and sales team. How can you possibly show someone a path if you are blind yourself or suffering from a snowball concussion? Even better, what if you cannot budget for a sales team? Yet it's not hard for me to agree with that concept. You're right, I say. I cannot afford a sales team. Marketing and sales were always 2 of the biggest challenges in my business. I felt guilty for not getting involved in sales activities, but I always told myself this was not my area. I used to get mad when my salespeople didn't bring me the results I wanted, but I knew secretly that my results would have sucked even more. Ugh, I hated marketing and sales. Now back to fear. Let me ask you, if you get over your fear of rejection, will you be able to succeed in business? If is the important part. If I can get over the fear, yes, I can. No, you can't, he counters. What? I laugh. You are so frickin' crazy, Arjun. The first time someone fails in business, you can blame their fear of rejection as one of the reasons for failing in marketing and sales. After the first time, though, It's highly likely they will have fear of failure when they start their second business, which is the vicious cycle I get caught up in, I explain without a shred of confidence. It sucks to fail all the time. He smiles gently. I will help you overcome your fear of rejection, Lindsay. But... Just curious, how do you think you will change this pattern? I have no clue, Arjun. At all. If I knew, I wouldn't need you. For me, rejection is like being hit by a truck and then run over by it. I nervously laugh, shaking my head. Then, let me tell you another story, Arjun begins, facing me and crossing his legs. In a village in India, there lived a rich man named Kubera. One day, he met Pachal, a poor farmer who once was his classmate. Kubera invited Pachal to his house. Pachal's clothes were filthy and tattered. This sounds very familiar, Arjun. Very familiar. It's not the story of Arjun and Lindsay. He laughs, then continues. So, as per their Indian tradition of treating guests like gods, Kubera gifted his only best outfit to his poor friend. Pachal refused his gift, but Kubera insisted until finally, Pachal wore the beautiful threads. The poor Pachal looked like a king, while rich Kubera appeared to be his servant. Even though he was rich, Kubera already felt inferior. He was a poor man with a lot of money, in his mind, I add. Yes, in his mind, where it matters, Arjun winks at me. The two friends went for a walk. They met up with some of Kubera's rich friends. This is Pachal, my old classmate, Kubera said, but his clothes are mine. Wow, what? A jerk, I say aghast. Yes, Arjun continues with his story. Pachal felt horrified. Why did you tell him these clothes weren't mine? There was no need for that. I didn't even ask for your clothes. Kubera felt horrible. I am so sorry. I don't know why I said that. I guess I was embarrassed and felt like explaining. I am so sorry. I won't say that again. They kept walking and met another friend of Kubera's. He introduced Pachal and said, This is my friend, Pachal, from the village, but his clothes are not mine again. Pachal was totally embarrassed this time. Why do you keep mentioning the clothes? There is no need. Nobody asked you whose clothes you are wearing. You gave them to me to wear, and now you are embarrassing me. I was fine there. Where I was. I work hard. I'm proud of my sweaty clothes. Yet, your clothes shame me. I am so sorry, Kubera said. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. Please forgive me. I will not talk about the clothes anymore. I promise. They continued walking and met another person. Kubera introduced Pachal again. This is my friend from the village. Please don't ask me anything about what he is wearing, because I promised I would not talk about his clothes. The poor man threw his hands up, frustrated. You know what? I am going back to the village. I want to live my life without being embarrassed. Goodbye, Kubera. On a broader scale, Arjun sighs. This is the ultimate story of human conditioning. And how we are trapped by our minds and our pasts. You either embrace it, fight it, or pretend to be cool, but we are almost never free from it. I will teach you a powerful technique that will help you break free from the mental jails we build for ourselves. For now, he begins, let's focus on today's outcome, overcoming fear of rejection. Kubera felt rejected first, right? He tried to avoid it by denying it. Once that was challenged, he became indifferent. But all along, he was controlled by his insecurity and fear. When people try to change their patterns, most of the time, this is what happens. They move from smoking to drinking, or drinking to overeating. Emotionally, they move from negative emotion to negative emotion like guilt to anger. What we really want is lasting change even after we overcome our challenges. Successful entrepreneurs and professionals conquer their past. Accelerator 3, conquer your past. I nod, totally empathizing. Up and down like an out-of-control yo-yo on the end of a tight string is just like how I managed dieting. Sometimes the yo-yo caught sight of a dessert bar, or justified a couple pints of ice cream to de-stress. I mean, how many times in the past had I started a diet, done very well the first few weeks, then fallen back to the same old patterns? But we're talking about business, so I stopped Arjun a moment. Okay, so let's suppose I have a new business. As the owner of the company, what can I do to address my fear of rejection? I ask, curious to hear his thoughts. Excellent question. Let me answer your question with another question, Ak. You and your questions, I laugh. Yes, yes. You're going to hate me by the time this is all over. He smiles. Trust me, I won't. Continue, sir, I say gallantly. Okay, tell me, Lindsay, why must you overcome your fear of rejection today? Because I need to succeed, I reply. He winces a little. From a deeper sense, though, why else must you change? I try to dig a little deeper past the yo-yo within. I should have known he wouldn't accept the first answer my brain spat out. Because I don't deserve to feel like this, let alone live this way. Why don't you deserve to live this way? He asks. I know he's playing devil's advocate. Because I'm a good person, and I try my best, and I have a great product, I say, willing my unconfident brain to believe it. He nods slowly. So, if 0 is you are not at all interested in overcoming fear of rejection today, and 10 means you absolutely want to make this change right away, what number are you? I think a 7 or 8. I say. Great. Let me follow that up with another question. What is most important? For you, most important, in what? I ask. Doesn't matter. Just tell me what is most important to you. In life, business or in general, he clarifies, but not by much. He's leaving it open-ended to hear my thoughts. I have to think about this for a minute. At one point in my life, I thought it was my relationship. I thought having someone to share life with was my highest desire. Recently, I want to succeed in business. I feel like if I cannot stand on my own, I'm not fit to be in a relationship. After some deliberation, I reply, I want to be extremely successful. Do you mean extremely successful or wealthy? Both. I smile. He nods as if saying, fair enough. Okay, what do you feel this extreme success gives you? More money? More recognition? Arjun is unrelenting. Whose recognition are you losing out on because you have this fear of rejection? My family's, my colleagues, my business partners, all of them. Familiar feelings of sadness and despair threaten to take over me. I don't know why it's so important I have everyone's validation, but it is. How do you feel about losing all that recognition? Insecure. Insecure about what? I sigh loudly. About myself, business, everything. I can feel myself stressing out just talking about this. Though it's not Arjun who made me feel this way, I can't help but feel a bit annoyed by all the tough questions. If you continue to allow yourself to feel rejected, will you ever be able to feel secure? No, Arjun arches one eyebrow. Now, on a scale from 1 to 10, what is your number? For overcoming fear of rejection, a 9, he grins. Had you overcome this fear 10 years ago, how could your life be different today? Don't remind me. I could have succeeded. I could have lived my own life. I could have applied my creativity to innovate in my business. Like you said last week, I could have mastered my business, not been enslaved by it. I could have been a successful businesswoman. Plus, I would have been able to stop eating ice cream after just one bite. Ugh, this is so disappointing, Lindsay. I do not ask these questions to make you feel disappointed but to teach you what you could do differently, so it doesn't happen again, he says, laying his hand on my back again. It truly feels comforting. If you had overcome this fear 10 years ago, what types of people could you be connected to right now? Thinking about this is difficult. The most successful entrepreneurs in LA. I might be married to a successful, understanding and supportive man. My family and friends would have looked up to me. And how would you have grown your business differently had you been fearless a decade ago? I feel the tears rising in my eyes from the pressure of these answers, but I give in anyway. I would have built a business empire. I would have had hundreds of employees working for me who felt secure and respected. I would have fed thousands of starving children around the world real food, plus a bit of ice cream for fun. I wipe quiet tears from my lids while trying to stay light. Lindsay, what is your number for overcoming fear of rejection? Now through the roof, Arjun. 20, Arjun nods happily. That's right. I see that you are truly ready to overcome the fear of rejection that is stopping you from succeeding in business and life. Heck yeah, I am. Heck yeah, this is the first step of changing anything. You must give yourself emotional consent to change. You have great leverage on your mind and your past. Right now. According to neuroscientists, when you're emotionally activated, you can easily change your brain's wiring for good. He agrees, and something about Arjun saying heck yeah makes me smile. Have you heard of Swami Vivekananda? He asks. Doesn't sound familiar. He was an Indian Hindu monk who traveled around the world teaching Indian philosophies to the Western world. Long ago, he was challenged to prove himself in a king's court in India. If you are truly a holy man, can you take this stick and make it smaller? The king challenged, placing a large stick before the Swami. Vivekananda thought for a minute and said, "Yes, I can." Everybody gathered to see if he would be able to change the size of the stick. After some consideration, Vivekananda asked 2 men to retrieve a large log from the castle grounds. Finally, the men returned, hefting the log and stood before Vivekananda and the king. "Now, place it next to the stick," Vivekananda said. Now, the old stick looked tiny next to the large log. "Is the stick smaller now?" he asked the king. The king was humbled by the new perspective. Arjun cocks his head to one side. "What did you learn from this story?" "That it's all about perspective," I reply quickly. "Maybe I've been looking at fear of rejection as bigger than it is. I need to work on that." Fascinating answer, Arjun says. "I appreciate your honesty and candor. Let's do that now, shall we?" "Heck yeah," I say, waiting for Arjun's reply. "Heck yeah, indeed," he replies with a laugh. "Let's handle your fear of rejection by using Escape, a powerful intervention I created to help people re-engineer their minds so that they can shift their identity and convert their fear into power." Identity shift. Okay, you didn't tell me I was going to be getting a new body. Speaking of which, a new body would be nice, come to think of it. Can you give me a Beyoncé? Please. Not exactly how that works, of course, Arjun says with a grin. Your identity consists of your value and beliefs, especially the beliefs you have about yourself. It translates into wirings in your brain's unique fingerprint. Neuroscientists call this your connectome. You change your behavior or habit, you change a bit. You change your beliefs, you make progress. You change your values, you make even bigger progress. If you change your identity, you have a new fingerprint, a new connectome. You found the next version of you. Let's continue on our walk, shall we? He gets up, stretches, and heads off slowly down the path. I follow him. "Tell me about a time you felt completely rejected." I frown. "Arjun, the day you found me, I was standing in the ocean, remember? A big reason for that was because of what Charlie did a couple of months earlier. He left me, and he said I was a failure." "Yes, I know a bit about that." "Do you remember your first experience where you felt completely rejected?" Arjun asks, holding his arms above his head and stretching as he walks. I take a huge, deep breath and begin. "When I was about 13, I was totally in love with this kid, Marlon Turner. I'll never forget his name. I couldn't wait for the school dance, so I could hopefully dance with him. The big day finally arrived, and somehow, I was brave enough to ask him to dance. I was so nervous, I swear I was about to throw up. Well, right in front of his buddies, he said no to me, all the while laughing. I was so utterly heartbroken, I couldn't even walk away gracefully. So I just stood there. The longer I stood, the more everybody laughed at me. His friends called me ugly, retard, and a bunch of other names. God, it was a horrible experience. Wow. I am sorry about that, Lindsay. It's okay, I say, trying to brush it off. Middle school sucked. Let's measure this feeling, shall we? If -10 is absolute rejection, and 0 is neutral, and +10 means complete acceptance, where do you think you fall in this experience? I scoff. Pretty low, that's for sure. -8, I see. Can you think of a time when you felt -10? Shrugging, I nod. Oh, I have more, but you asked me for my first experience. Let's see, when I was married to my ex, Jay, he was usually indifferent about most things. We rarely fought. Then again, he acted like he didn't care about me. He ignored me. I was like nobody to him. I can see why you are no longer married, Arjun said with an empathetic frown. You're not kidding. I cooked for that man and did his dishes. But he was only happy during the 30 seconds he needed me every week. Jay was a salesperson, so he traveled all the time. I felt lonely in my relationship when he was home and when he was gone. I know that must have hurt, Arjun says, but I'm excited you're able to share this. Most people tell their experiences and start crying. And if I cry with you, you know what is going to happen. We're going to be two sobbing hot messes, I reply. Exactly. Though I am the hotter of the two of us, he says with a waggle of his brows. Oh, that goes without saying, Arjun. Weird that he already knows how much humor cheers me up. He goes on. If I empathize with your tears, it's going to drive negative emotion deeper into your nervous system. My response style is different. I'm coming from a place of deep caring for you, not for your problems. Is that okay? I paste a mock scowl on my face. No? I want you to cry with me. Not going to happen. Okay, give me a number for this experience. About feeling rejected by Jay? Phew, -9. I'd say. Arjun laughed. You trying to disappoint me? You know I'm looking for a -10. That's because there's another one, when I dramatically failed in my business. My whole family came to me, blaming me, telling me, you don't know anything. I told you, you weren't capable of running a business. We told you becoming an entrepreneur was too risky. We warned you so many times. See, look what happens. When you don't listen to us, they were furious because I'd lost not only my money but their money, too. When they all started calling one by one, telling me I was a failure, I wept. Not in front of them, of course, because I had to pretend to be strong. But when I got home, I let it all out and felt so guilty that I stayed in my room for 10 days. I was pissed. Pissed at me, pissed at them. But more at me, because I screwed up. That was when I felt the most rejected. Suddenly, I feel like a huge weight lifts off my shoulders and I heave a shaky sigh of relief. Lindsay, what is the level of rejection you feel when you think about your business? Failure -10, I say. Quickest answer ever. Look at that. The moment you can identify this, it's easy to fix. These are fearful memories you have about your past. According to Dr. Daniel Siegel, one of the most renowned neuroscientists in the world, memory is a way past events affect future function. In a direct way, experiences thus shape the structure of the brain. Thus, the experiences of rejection you had in the past could activate your fear of rejection in the future. But memory is not a static thing. Remembering is not merely activating the old experience, it is the creation of a new connection based on who you are with and what state of mind you experience today. Arjun warms to his topic and continues, animatedly. In addition to that, you have something called implicit memory that is built up of metaphors. You conceive the meaning of any experience from these metaphors. Ultimately, these metaphors define the idea of who you are, your identity. That is what we are planning to change today. But let's experiment. Take the images of your puppy love, your indifferent husband, and of the business failure, and create one single video of the entire experiences together. Watch it from beginning to end. Sounds like my own personal hell, and I can't help but wonder if there is something more pleasant I could do, like squeeze lemons into my eyes. Still, Arjun hasn't steered me wrong so far. I close my eyes as I walk, imagining my video. The smells of industrial cleaner and wax that kept the school's floors overly glossed. Sweaty palms and a heartbeat that pushes through my sweater. I walk toward my boy crush as the eyes of the other middle school kids mock me. The pain of failure floods through me. A creak from the old oak front door resonates through the kitchen as Jay saunters in from a week on the road. Disheveled hair and a disinterested glance towards me signal that an evening spent in mutual loneliness is on the menu. The smell of wine and sweet cherry ice cream permeates the bedroom. Tissues are piled next to